Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. So, kind of a big day for me. I know all of you have probably had this experience. I would imagine it's just one of those universal human experiences. But today was the day for me when I figured out why my smartwatch seemed to be randomly changing faces on me. I just figured it out. See, because I have this, right? That's my, and you can see that's my smartwatch, right? And that's my preferred face. Okay. But every once in a while, I'll click the little button to check what time it is. And there's a different watch face like that. And I would just be, you know, just confounded by this. And I'd have to go into the menu and go through the different screens and swipe back. Today, I figured out the little knob on the side, it turns. And every time you turn it, it goes to a different face. So all I have to do to get back to the face that I want is just turn it until it's back. Isn't that amazing? And so what has been happening, no doubt, is all these years when I've been apparently randomly confronted with a self-changing watch face that just took it upon itself to switch around. It's just that I've been unknowingly twisting the little knob. And now I know what causes it. And I can, it's like a whole new world has been opened up to me. It's like some dark secret of the universe has been disclosed. And now I am a fuller, freer person as a result. So now I'm part of the club. All of you who already knew this, I'm one of you now. I'm your brother. Anyway, as you know, I begin the show and spend probably more than the first hour of the show answering questions that were submitted ahead of time by my wonderful Patreon patrons and channel members. So if you were with us in the live chat and you have a question you wanted to ask me in the live chat, or you wanted to throw in a super chat and be generous, which I always welcome and encourage if you feel like doing that, please try to hold off on all of that until I get through the patron and member questions, because only then will I be able to pay full attention to all of you wonderful people in the live chat. So with all that being said, let us begin the patron and member questions. And this first one comes from the all-time Trekkie, quite a lofty title. So what have your thoughts been about Strange New Worlds Season 3? I've really missed your episode recaps and reactions and such. I personally love the holodeck episode, and I think it's camp and nostalgia in a Captain Proton or Dixon Hill sort of way, and not just pandering to, hey, remember that thing, etc. Your thoughts? Overall, the one speech by Not Uhura made me tear up, and overall is one of the most favorite episodes of Strange New Worlds, if not New Trek in general. P.S. I really hope they stop pairing Spock with people. It seems really against the character, and after the breakup last season, he seemed to be going towards his TOS characterization, but not anymore, apparently. I am not doing single episode reviews of Strange New Worlds this time, just for mostly because of scheduling reasons and because Jason didn't want to do our tandem reviews anymore. So I'm going to do a just sort of a cumulative season review of once the whole season is out and all 10 episodes have been watched by me. I'll do a video just reviewing all of them. I have liked it so far. I have been somewhat concerned by the fact that we are now 6 episodes in. This week's episode was number 6 for the season, and there has yet to be, in my opinion, a truly great, like, knock your socks off, blow away amazing episode. The episodes so far have all been ranged from sort of good to fine. I haven't seen a bad episode yet. The show is it's fine. And in certain cases it's very good. But nothing has like just fucking knocked me out yet. And maybe I'm spoiled because that had happened at least once by this point in both of the previous seasons. And so by that standard, by comparison, this season feels a little bit like they're coasting, a little bit like they're not taking the big creative swings that they took in the previous seasons. Again, up to this point, but the season's not over yet. We still have 4 episodes to go in this 3rd season. It's been fine. I liked the holodeck episode. I liked the twist at the end of it, as far as like what the solution to the murder mystery was, like who the killer's identity was. I thought that was very cleverly handled. Um, not Uhura's speech was fine. It to me it treads perilously close to Star Trek patting itself on the back, which I really don't like. I mean, everything she said in that speech was true, and I agree with it as reference to Star Trek itself. I mean, there's nothing about it that I have a problem with in terms of the content. I just don't know if I want a Star Trek character in a Star Trek show giving a speech with just a thin layer of removal that is just telling us all why Star Trek is awesome. I don't think Star Trek should tell us why Star Trek is awesome. Star Trek and all other shows and movies, etc., should demonstrate to us why it's awesome by being awesome, not by having one of the characters do, all but break the fourth wall and say, here's why Star Trek is important. Now, having said that, I was probably more appreciative of that speech than I would have been otherwise because of everything else going on in the world. Like, in the context of everything else that's happening, it was kind of nice and reassuring to have a Star Trek character in a Star Trek show reaffirm Star Trek's commitment to inclusion and diversity and representation and progressive social commentary. Like, so in that way, I appreciated it, in compared to like the fucking shit show that we are all living in the real world. So yeah, and I mean, Spock's character, I mean, the only thing about Spock getting paired up with another crew member so soon that bothered me is that it just has happened so soon since the last time. I really don't care if they move him toward, like, I do not see, TOS is a separate show to me, and TOS already exists, and we already have it, and we know what it is. I don't feel like the creators of Strange New Worlds, even though it is a prequel and even though it is, younger versions of the same characters, it's a different show. I really don't feel like they're under any obligation to, make sure by the end of their show that like Spock has become the Leonard Nimoy version of Spock. I think they're probably going to do that, but if they don't, it wouldn't bother me as long as the show was good. And I'm not like sitting around waiting for it to happen. And, it's nothing that I feel like I need, or if I don't get it, then the show is not going to be good. Like, I view them as separate works of fiction. So if Ethan Peck Spock starts to move more toward like a similar characterization to Leonard Nimoy in the original series, okay, fine. As long as it's good, as long as it works, I'm fine with that. If they don't do that, I'm fine with that too, as long as it works. Next question from Matthias. Hi, Steve. Do you agree that the Democratic Party have earned such a good reputation of being an effective opposition that many swing voters drawn in by GOP's rosy-eyed promises vote Republican, trusting the Democrats will keep the Republicans' worst instincts under control? I really sympathize with the Democrats, as every year they seem to get blamed for the selfish and irresponsible policy decisions the Republicans have made in previous years, or criticized because they've only been able to deliver a political promise / policy in a watered down form due to Republican sabotage. Perhaps that's one of the reasons why the Democrats seem less vocal at the moment, because they're extremely tired of playing that role. Maybe the Democrats have learned the cynical life lesson that sometimes you have to acquiesce and just give people the foolish thing they've requested, in this case, Trumpism, and then watch as things fail, even when you know better. I think they deserve a break. I mean, I see where you're coming from, and I think I share your viewpoint to an extent, but no, the Democrats don't deserve a break. The Democrats need to fight harder. Like, that's all there is to it. And some of them are. And I applaud it, and I'm very happy to see it. And I wish more of them would do it, especially more of them who are who are part of the old guard, who are influential within the party, who occupy prominent positions, either in the party or in elected office, or both. I feel like they just, I understand what you're saying. And yes, there is a lot of misplaced, when the Republicans do something terrible, there is a certain segment of voters, sometimes sort of disillusioned centrists, who are like, how could they let this happen? Sometimes leftists, far leftists, who seem to hate the Democrats more than the Republicans for reasons that continue to baffle me, and would rather attack the Democrats. I mean fruitlessly attack the Democrats. I mean, not constructively, attack them or criticize them, but like just fruitlessly attack the Democrats than the Republicans. And I do think that's unfair, and I do see that happening, and it does frustrate me. But at the end of the day, the Democrats are the opposition party at this point. They are the only people who can do anything to even slow Trump's agenda down. They may not have the ability to stop it because they don't have that political power at this point. Some of that is their fault. Some of that is the fault, again, of voters who refused to see the train coming and were like, I'm not voting for the Democrats, right? Like, there's a lot of blame to go around. But the Democratic Party's responsibility right now is to fight as hard as they possibly can and to do everything they can do to minimize the damage being caused by the Trump administration and the Republicans, and to put themselves in the best possible position to start undoing the damage and repairing it and getting the country back on its feet whenever this is over, right? That's their number one priority. And they need to be fighting like hell in every way they can. So no, they don't deserve a break. They deserve a congratulations for the times that they have been doing good and doing the right thing. And then they need a kick in the ass to remind them, you need to keep doing this. Chapetigo, hey Steve, longtime viewer who came for the trek and stayed for the social advocacy. More than anything, I just wanted to extend you some support and express my appreciation. You're a great dude. Well, thank you very much, my friend. Spoiler alert. With that out of the way, I never really read comics growing up, but I truly enjoy your summaries. Off the record, that was probably my ADHD. Don't read as much as I should. The name of the comic in question escapes me, but I recall your summary of a comic where the antagonist was Jor-El. With the twist and casting we saw in Superman 2025, how cool do you think it would be to see Jor-El in the new Supergirl movie? I think it would be awesome to see him start off as an antagonist and become something of an anti-hero at the end. I personally would love that and just wanted to share it with you and your community. Live long and prosper. The comic you're thinking of that I did a Best Superman Ever video about is called The Oz Effect, and it was a 5 or 6 issue story arc. I can't remember 5 or 6, but it was a multi-issue story arc in I think Action Comics. And yeah, it's the one where there's a sort of a recurring villain in the Superman comics up to that point, and it's revealed, oh my God, he's really Jor-El, and his mind has been twisted, and he survived Krypton, and his mind has been twisted, and he's become sort of evil and malicious. Do I want to see Jor-El in the new Supergirl movie? No. Now, having said that, if Jor-El is in the new Supergirl movie and he's good in it, then great. I'm all for that. But just in theory, if you were asking me, do I want to see Jor-El in the new Supergirl movie? No, I don't. I don't want to see Jor-El in anything. Jor-El's dead. Krypton's gone. I don't want Jor-El to be a character in the present day. Now, if he's present in the movie in the form he was in Superman, where he's like a recording of him and Lara saying something to their son from the past, like, okay, fine. But do I want Jor-El or Lara or anyone else who died on Krypton, or we were led to believe died on Krypton, to be in like the present day of the story? No, they're dead. I don't want to see them. With, as always, the disclaimer that if they do that and it works and it's good, then I'm all for it. Shannon Breen, hi Steve. I would like to ask your opinion on whether you think it's likely there's going to be a free and fair election in 2026. Thank you for the opportunity to ask a question. Well, thank you for being a supporter and for asking one. So 2 things. First of all, I think we should all act as though there will be a free and fair election next year. And the most important part of acting in that way is to vote in it and to support the candidates that we like in both the primary and the general election. And if you can do more than that, if you can donate to a campaign or volunteer or do something else with whatever resources or platform you have, to help out beyond voting, then by all means do that too. Do not use the assumption of, well, it's not going to be a real election anyway, as an excuse to just stay home and not vote. Vote. Act as though it's a free and fair election and go vote and do whatever else you can. The second thing is we have to remember at the presidential level, at least, and also, I mean, at the congressional level as well, we talk about it collectively as an election, but it's not an election. It's hundreds of local elections that are held at the same time, right? So do I think there will be fair and free elections in Maryland, where I live? Yes, I do. Do I think there will be free and fair elections in many other states of the Union? In fact, maybe even most other states of the Union? Yes, I think there probably will. I think that will probably be the case. Do I think there will be places, specifically places under a lot of Republican control, where election deniers have been elevated to positions where they have the power to administrate and oversee elections? Do I think in some of those areas we might have elections where the results need to be questioned or need to be verified extra carefully? Yes, I do. I do. I don't know what else to tell you, but yeah, I mean, yes and no, basically, but participate in the election regardless of your fears or suspicions, whether or not you think it's going to be on the up and up. April H., thank you for your level-headed commentary on both Star Trek and real life. You and Stephen Colbert were one of the few bright lights focusing on the situation we are currently in. That is, you're putting me in lofty company that I have absolutely no business being in, but thank you for the thought of that. I was fortunate to get to attend a Stephen Colbert show last week. I have to admit, I was worried about him because of his boldness, but now I'm hoping he'll go somewhere where he can really talk. What do you think of the whole situation? I mean, I think it's awful. I think it's a shame. I think it's an act of, at best, it's an act of cowardice on the part of Paramount, just flat out canceling his show. At worst, it's an act of capitulation. It's an act of bending the knee and kissing the boot of the Trump administration. And that's what most people, I think, completely reasonably suspect that it is. But even if it's not that, it's still an act of cowardice in the current environment. Whether you mean it as a de facto bribe to Trump or to curry favor with Trump or not doesn't matter. Giving Trump what he wants, doing anything that is beneficial to him or anything that is pleasing to him in this current environment is an act of cowardice and is a dereliction of your duty as a citizen, especially if you happen to have the resources that executives at Paramount have to run a TV studio, a movie studio, a TV network, et cetera, et cetera. So it is regardless of their intentions and regardless of the reasons behind it, it's unforgivable on their part. Not just because, well, Stephen Colbert's show is that important. It's because of what it represents. It's because of the standard that it sets. So it's a horrible situation. I think Colbert will be fine. As I said a few weeks ago when this first started, when this news broke, he'll be fine. He as a person will be fine. If he wants another job, he'll get another job. If he wants to retire, I'm sure he's set for life financially by this point. And most of the other people who work on his show, in front of and behind the camera, probably will be able to get other jobs in the entertainment industry without too much trouble, especially now that they will have this amazing item on their resume. So I'm not worried about Colbert and the people on his staff and crew in that sense, but I am worried about what it represents. And what it represents is something that there's absolutely no excuse for. Carlisle the Cinephile, it was my 30th birthday on Sunday. Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to you, Carlisle. I've seen a bunch of detractors for the James Gunn Superman movie claim that it's a failure because it hasn't had as huge of a run in foreign markets as other DC films. People are doing it for the new Fantastic Four movie, too. Honestly, this obsession with box office numbers is really getting tiresome. Since when has box office revenue been the definitive proof of a film's quality? A lot of films that are considered beloved classics now didn't do well during their initial theater runs. The opposite is true too. A lot of films that made a ton of money and broke box office records are actually complete garbage. How full of it are these people on a scale of 1 to 10? Oh, it's a 10. They don't actually care. The reason why first of all, you're absolutely right. Box office grosses have nothing to do with a movie's quality, and there's one very good reason for that. A box office total is an objective number that can be quantified. You can tell me definitively how much money a given movie made during its theatrical run. You can define the beginning and the end of that run. You can add up all the tickets sold, all the money grossed, and you can say, this movie made this much money. It's an objective fact. Quality of a movie is a subjective opinion. And there are a lot of people, especially like the people who are the kind of people who are pissed off and resentful about the new Superman movie. They would really like their opinions about what is good and what is not good to be treated as objective facts, because they're egotistical, because they are insecure, because they are unable to actually articulate their opinions intelligently, and so they would rather they just be uncritically accepted as facts. And so they try to weld their opinion of a movie to something objective like the box office. And they say, oh, sure, maybe James Gunn's Superman made more money domestically than Zack Snyder's first Superman movie, but if you factor in the worldwide total, Zack Snyder's movie made way more, and James Gunn's Superman is probably not going to catch it. Which is true. That is true. Globally, Man of Steel grossed more money than this year's Superman movie did. That's true. And this year's Superman movie probably isn't going to catch up. Okay. That's objective, but it has nothing to do with the quality of the film. It proves nothing. One of my favorite superhero movies ever is Superman Returns. It didn't make nearly as much money as the studio wanted it to. It wasn't quite a bomb, but it very much underperformed. So it wasn't a success at the box office by the standards that were set for it. And a great many people who saw it, regular folks in the audience and film critics, the majority didn't think it was a good movie. I still think it was good. I still like it. I still watch it and enjoy it. And if somebody asks, I can tell you why. Not in a way of arguing with you like I'm trying to convince you, because that's dumb to argue about movies like that. But in a way that will hopefully make it clear to you and explain to you why I like it, why I think it works as well as it does. But there's nothing objective in it. It's my opinion. Just like it's my opinion that Man of Steel isn't half the movie creatively that James Gunn's Superman movie is. James Gunn's Superman movie walks all over all those fucking Zack Snyder movies. Makes them all look like fucking garbage. But that's my opinion. I can't prove that. That's not an objective fact. That's just what I think. And I'm okay with that. I'm secure in that. A lot of people that are trying to point at, box office grosses and say that proves something or another about the quality of the film, they're not secure in their opinions and their taste. They feel like they need some kind of objective standard that they can appeal to. And unfortunately for them, there ain't no objective standard that you can appeal to in terms of the quality of a movie. So how full of shit are they? 10. Wolfram Hart, my question is on Batman. Hello. But wanted to say thank you for your Superman movie thoughts. Saw both Superman and Fantastic Four within a day of each other, and while both good films, the one I remember best and had a positive feeling about was Superman. Even though a lot of things don't make a ton of sense plot-wise, though I didn't consider it silly, just kind of wondering if the 4-hour original cut down to 2.5 hours might explain the plot holes and contrivances. So gut-wise, I just like Superman more, even if Fantastic Four is arguably a better movie. On to my question. Out of Batman's many varied and storied rogues gallery villains that regularly appear, who are the ones that truly you think deserve Arkham Asylum sympathy? Today, they don't actually have insane asylums like in olden days. So while Joker might be insane, he's incurable, incorrigible, and kills whenever. So who amongst Batman's rogue villains really is deserved of rehabilitation? My vote is Harvey Dent and the animated series Mr. Freeze. Well, those are both really good picks. Um, I mean, the one that just came to mind was Catwoman, but in the modern era, she's usually depicted as more of like an anti-hero rather than like a straight down the line villain. But you know, she has complexity. She's not evil, right? No, I think Two-Face and Mr. Freeze are probably um, the best examples. They've kind of gone in a similar direction with the Riddler in certain interpretations in the comics. Um, where they've taken a more sympathetic view of him and framed his motivations as more the result of like obsessions that he can't really control, that he's not evil and malicious because he just is that way, and he's not necessarily incurable or beyond all hope like the Joker is usually depicted as being. So maybe the Riddler as well, but I think Two-Face and Mr. Freeze are probably the best two, especially the animated version of Mr. Freeze, because that version of the character was written that way from the beginning. Like, we are clearly intended to be sympathetic to that character, even though he's obviously a bad guy and he does really bad things. And Two-Face as well. And I mean, the animated series version of Two-Face leans into that too. They really establish Harvey's friendship with Bruce Wayne, and the fact that Bruce, even after he becomes Two-Face and becomes a criminal, Bruce never gives up on him and is always trying to help him and trying to pull him back. And that's in the comics from time to time as well. So yeah, I think you're right. I think I agree with you. I think Two-Face and Mr. Freeze are the best examples of that. Neil, do you believe there are fewer LGBTQIA plus themes in Strange New Worlds because Paramount is concerned that Star Trek fans are burned out on those type of storylines? No, I don't. And if that is the case, then they should maybe go back to the drawing board and do a better job of representing queer folks on the show. And B, if there are still fans who just don't like it because they just don't like it and they think there's such a thing as too much LGBTQ content on a show, then they should just ignore what those fans think anyway, because fuck them. Oh, there's too much gay shit on this show. Don't listen to that person. That person's opinion is irrelevant. Right? I mean, there are things to critique. Like if you're doing queer representation in a way that like feels forced or feels like tokenism or is somehow wrongheaded or in poor taste, or if there's some like actual problem with the writing of it or the presentation of it, yes, it absolutely should be critiqued and challenged. But if the complaint is there's too much gay stuff on the show, then don't listen to that person. That's not a legitimate critique. That's a bigot whining, right? Listen to legitimate, intelligent critiques of what you're doing, not people who are like, why is there so much gay stuff on Star Trek? So, but no, I don't, to answer your actual question, no, I don't think that is the case. Now, the season that we're seeing now was produced before the merger. I think the real test of like, will this merger and the Paramount's desire to appease Trump, will it have any effect on what happens on screen on a show as historically progressive as Star Trek? I really don't think we'll know until the next season of Strange New Worlds, or maybe Starfleet Academy next year, although I think that has largely been shot at this point. So, but I mean, we won't know until the near future. I don't think even if that was the case, I don't think we would really see that reflected in the ongoing season of Strange New Worlds. The fucking tired some random geek. As of Monday, August 11th, Phoenix had made a payment of $200 to their phone bill and internet bill last week, Thursday. But they still need $325 to fully pay off those bills. And they still need to raise money for food. This is their Blue Sky post about it, and there's the link. And I also had the foresight this time to add that Blue Sky post from Phoenix to the video description of this live stream. So if anybody's interested in helping out and you want to go to the Blue Sky post to find out more information, it's linked in the description of this stream that you're watching right now. Their only source of income is begging online because TDAP, Temporary Disability Assistance Program, is only like $150 a month and food stamps is just $110 or something. Someone needs to step up to be a sugar daddy for Phoenix or a glucose parent, because I am told that, geek, your friends will suffer in the meantime. The meantime will be forever as long as there is capitalism. And even the Democrats are pro-capitalism too. And the leadership of the Dems doesn't want socialists in their ranks, but I guess I should give up on fighting capitalism, because fighting capitalism is like ramming my head into a sledgehammer. The USA could be like Sweden and Norway. And I'll just go on with the next one because this is also geek. Some random geek is rambling and ranting again. FYI, Sweden has 27,000 homeless people as of 2023, and Sweden is still a capitalist country. And we can fight against fascism, conservatism, and capitalism all at the same time, and it is worth fighting capitalism as well to fight fascism, because capitalism in decay is fascism. Saying it's impossible to fight against capitalism is like saying it's impossible to fight against fascism. But not only does Phoenix need help, they probably need the most help, but Naz didn't get her SSI this month again, 5 months in a row or something. Naz and LQ need money for bills and food, and this is Naz's birthday month, and they can't raise money for fun stuff because they have to prioritize survival. Joanna is always DMing me for money because they need $2,500 a month to live and only get $1,000. Steve, I get the feeling that liberals who say fighting capitalism is like slamming your head against a sledgehammer say that to get someone like me to give up fighting capitalism. Should I? Well, no. And I think, even if I told you, yes, you should give up, like, I don't think you would. No, I don't think you should give up. I mean, I'm sure there are some people who say that with the intention of, trying to dissuade you from your position. I think a lot of other people maybe just say it because they're tired of hearing about it. They're either they disagree with you that much, or they feel like they're in a situation where they can't do anything about it themselves. So they just want to, like, oh, stop talking about fighting capitalism. Like they're trying to kind of get you off of it just for their own comfort or convenience. But no, I mean, look, there's an old saying that you don't fight the battles that you know you can win. You fight the battles that you know you should fight. So even if overthrowing capitalism is a long shot, and it is, at least in our lifetime, to say the least, even if that is the case, if that is something that you truly believe that you should be doing, and I think clearly it is, then you carry on the fight because it's the right thing to do, because in your heart that's what you should be doing. Not because you have any expectation of winning or losing by any particular time. You do it because it's what you truly believe is the right thing to do. And I think, as far as you're able, in your situation, with your resources being what they are, I think you're doing that as much as you can. So if anybody tries to tell you to just stop doing it, consider it appropriately and respond appropriately. Faragrim, howdy as always from my husband and I. Howdy to you both. When writing your skits/sketches, are there any no-goes for you? Or things you try to avoid more so in the overtly political stuff? I mean, obviously I don't want to use, slurs or language that will be grossly offensive to people that I'm not trying to offend. I want to make sure that the target of the satire is the one that catches the brunt of, of the message, and that innocent people from groups aren't catching strays because I wanted to be edgy or whatever. That's important. There have been times when I had an idea for a gag and I decided not to do it because I thought it would come across as so mean-spirited that it would distract from the rest of the video, or it would create like a barrier between the audience and the video. You know, like I love making fun of myself. I often play characters, whether it's like a thinly veiled version of me, like in the Stuffy videos, or me playing another character that is, you know, designed to look foolish or whatever. I love doing that. I think making fun of yourself, I think self deprecating humor is one of the best, most fulfilling, and also safest in terms of, you know, giving accidental offense to people kinds of humor there is, because you're making yourself the target, right? Um, and I have made incredibly mean jokes at my own expense in the past. But there have been times, and I can't remember specifically what the joke was, but a few years ago, there was a joke I wrote for a Stuffy video that I decided very late in the process. Like, I think maybe when I was just about to start shooting it, I still had the joke in the script. And I read through it again and I thought, no, I'm not doing this one. Because even though it was at my expense, it was so mean that I felt like it would not get the reaction that I wanted to get. Like it was so mean that I didn't think it would be funny to other people. I thought it was funny, but I didn't. And I'm sure it would have been funny to some people. Like I'm sure not everybody would have been like, "Oh my God." But I think I was afraid that enough people would have been put off by it instead of amused by it, that I didn't do it. So, I mean, there are considerations like that. Yeah, as well. But not really too many, you know, hard and fast rules or you know, third rails that I just absolutely will not touch. No. General Contact Unit Problem Child, what do you make of the idea that prominent progressive commentators have some kind of positive moral obligation to speak out about the genocide in Gaza? So while I think ContraPoint's reaction to being called out was pretty bad, I'm not sure how I feel about the thing people were calling her out for in the first place. Like, my general stance with regard to the various atrocities going on around the world at any given time is that you have a moral obligation to not take part in any way, but you're also not obligated to trying to stop them. Trying to stop them is supererogatory, i.e., morally good, but not obligatory. I think most of the people calling out Natalie would agree that for people in general, would agree with that for people in general, but they seem to think people like her have accepted some kind of responsibility to speak out about certain issues by making themselves into perceived thought leaders on progressive issues in the past. Thoughts on that idea? I do think that is the idea that a lot of people have. I do think that is why I think the people who are mad at her for this are mad at her. I don't think that's entirely fair. I think it is important to make it clear what side you are on, right? For me, like, look, I've talked about the genocide in Gaza before. I've made videos about it in the past. I will probably make videos about it, or at least refer to it and talk about it within the context of another video in the future, because it's appalling and there's no excuse for it and it shouldn't be happening. And I'm against it, right? But I don't think I am obligated to talk about it constantly, because I've made it clear what my position is. And if anybody asks me, I'll tell you what my position is. And I'm not afraid of offending people who have the opposite position. And I'm not entertaining finding common ground with people who have the opposite position. I've staked my claim very clearly, I think, when I have discussed it, that I'm against it. And I think it's without excuse. But I don't know what I would be accomplishing if I just made video after video after video after video about it as a person in my position. Now, if I was a journalist, if I was in the position of being able to discover new facts or bring new things to light or talk to people who were actually involved, or if I was someone other than just a dipshit in Maryland with a YouTube channel who has opinions on things, then sure, I think you could make the argument that yes, it would be my responsibility to talk about it more. But in my position and in Natalie's position, which is, or, you know, a much larger platform, a much larger audience, than I have, but an analogous position to mine. Like neither one of us is directly involved or in a position to get directly involved. So we're just commentators. We're just sharing our opinions. We're just so if I had a great idea for a video about Gaza that I felt like would make an impactful statement in a way that other people haven't, if I had like a take on it that I hadn't seen that I thought was really good and really powerful, of course I would make that video. And in that case, I probably would feel a responsibility. But do I feel a responsibility to just talk about it incessantly for the sake of it? No, I don't. And that doesn't mean that it's anything other than a horrible atrocity. We should all be thinking about it and talking about it collectively constantly, because again, it should not be happening. It should not have happened. It is inexcusable. It is a stain on all of our history in this era that we're living in, right? But each one of us as individuals does not have to continuously talk about it over and over and over again in order to, not be complicit in it. That's my feeling. But I do think it is very important. If you do have something specific to say, then I think you should say it. And you should make it clear which side you are on. And you should not be apologetic about that. But beyond that, again, in the circumstances in which people like me find ourselves, I don't think you're obligated to just constantly talk about it over and over again. And I don't know how much good that would do anyway. Would it really make that big of a difference if I made 5 videos about Gaza a week? I don't think it would. If I thought it would, then I would do that. Right? So, but no, I think I mostly agree with you on this. Brian Baker, Steve, what Trump is doing with the occupation of D.C. reminds me of when Nixon sent troops to college campuses against students protesting the Vietnam War. Nixon used hippies the same way Trump uses the immigrants, an emotional justification for government intervention. Before Nixon, Senator McCarthy used the Red Scare as a power grab against liberal ideas. In both instances, it was journalism by Woodward and Bernstein during Watergate and Ed Murrow during the McCarthy hearings that brought them down. I believe that in journalism, we will defeat MAGA not through emotional appeal, but by proof of the MAGA crimes. Murrow paid a high price for opposing McCarthy. A famous quotation, freedom of the press belongs to he who owns the press. With social media, the largest price of journalism distribution is reduced. In your opinion, what journalists should we expose ourselves to for the increase of knowledge? By the way, good job on keeping us informed. Thanks. I was talking with Dana about this earlier. She suggested Heather Cox Richardson, who I follow on social media and I think is pretty good. The name that came to my mind was Mehdi Hassan, as far as individuals. But I also think, there are outlets that deserve your attention, that regardless of who the individual journalists are. I think public media does a fairly good job. It's not perfect, but I think in this country, NPR and PBS, their news agencies do a pretty good job. Oh God, I had it in my head and then I fucking completely lost it. I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to look it up. ProPublica. There we go. ProPublica is also a good outlet. They focus on investigative journalism. They're not necessarily reporting the news on a daily basis, but they have done some really, really valuable and important work. I think the best practice is to just keep your eyes open, to just pay attention. And if there's a particular reporter's name that you notice that is, continuously writing things that are important, then make a note and try to follow them. Russell Kopp. So Trump has sent the troops in and taken control of DC. Then I guess that woke Superman really upset him. From over here, it all looks a bit suspect, but I imagine he's quite used to looking like a suspect by now. We just know that it is going to end up a hanging offense to mention the Epstein files. Anyway, enough preamble. My question is this. If Trump had invaded Marvel, would certain people, and they know who they are, have claimed that it was better directed, cast, and lit than any bogus, illegal, and morally repellent usurpation of democracy that DC was involved in? Fuck me, you kicked us out when all we asked for was a little extra housekeeping money. Well, yeah, there are always people. If there are Trump's, toadies and sycophants, who would flop all over anything that he touched. And if he's oh, DC is woke now, so we're Marvel fans. Okay, like that's just their mindset. That's just what they would do. Gregory Hughes. Hi there, Steve. I've been a longtime watcher. Happy to be celebrating my 5th year as a patron. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And this is the first question I've submitted to an Ask Away. I've never voted in a Trek Actually poll either, but I suppose that's because I prefer an along for the ride, or perhaps a Nimoyian where does Steve Shives want to take me approach to most of the art and I critique and consume. I can respect that. Now watch and be amazed at how I smash through that established premise. Would you consider making a video on the subject of Star Trek film scores? Your regular singing, you have a good sense of pitch, by the way. Have you studied music formally? I reflexively cringe at amateur singing, but yours is solid and entertaining. Bravo. And several one-off comments you've made about the scores in numerous videos over the years have led me to suspect you would have a thoughtful and compelling perspective, peppered with that Shivesian irreverence and smartassery we all know, love, and of course, we all know and love, of course. Thanks, cheers. I love that idea. I'm not sure how, the problem would be, I feel like I would be on good legal standing if I was critiquing it, but I feel like if I used a lot of Star Trek music in a video, it would get automatically flagged for copyright purposes. And like I said, I feel like I would be on solid ground legally in terms of it being fair use for the sake of commentary, but that does not always guarantee that YouTube will see it the same way, or that the entity that filed the claim in the first place will see it the same way. So it's a very iffy proposition. And I might find myself in the position of making a video that I am unable to earn any profit from. And that sounds a little ruthless and a little cold-hearted, but that's my livelihood, so I would balk at it just purely for that reason. But otherwise I would love to do a video about Star Trek film scores. Maybe someday I could do it just as like a members only or a patrons only video, as like a little bit of bonus content. And then I wouldn't have to, I could just have the mindset of, okay, this is just for the patrons and the members. And I wouldn't have to worry about, if it's going to be monetizable or not. Maybe I'll do that at some point. Because it's a really good idea. And yes, I think I would have something substantive to say about the various scores in Star Trek films, because some of the scores from Star Trek movies are some of my favorite movie scores of any movie. So it's a really good idea. Thank you for the suggestion, and I will think about trying to make it happen in some way or another. And thank you for complimenting my singing. I think you are being way too kind, but I appreciate it. I have not studied music formally. But if I'm doing well enough for you to not reflexively cringe, then I will take that as a compliment. Thank you very much. Dana the Exhausted. Happy Friday, Steve. By now, I'm sure you've seen some of California Governor Gavin Newsom's social media posts threatening to gerrymander the state to hell and back. 1, will you share your favorite one? 2, do you think the California legislature will actually do this? 3, how effective do you think it would be as a strategy for retaking the House? 4, what are your thoughts on the Trump-esque styling of the posts from Newsom's office? I don't have a favorite one queued up. I'm just going to skip that one. In general, I like it. I'm in favor of it. Do I think the legislature will actually do it? I think they will try it. In order for it to actually happen, I think they need to have a public referendum in order for it to actually be adopted. I do think they're going to try it, especially if Trump goes forward with trying it continues to try and make it happen in Texas. How effective do I think it would be as a strategy for retaking the House? Hopefully very effective. I think it would at least be effective as a strategy to cancel out any advantage that the Republicans would gain by further gerrymandering Texas, which I think is the ultimate goal of doing it in California. So I do think it would be effective in that way. And 4, what are my thoughts on the Trump-esque styling of the posts? Again, I like it. It's trolling him back. I think it seems to be getting positive attention from people, which is good. It seems to be giving the impression that Trump is a fool and that Trump is ridiculous and Trump should not be taken seriously and Trump should be made fun of and Trump should be denied the things he demands. So in that sense, it's good. And also it's a Democrat fighting back. And I will take all of that I can get. Agent Meister, who stayed at his post while the trainees ran. Peldor Joy, Steve, I love TNG Season 1. There, I've said it. Congratulations. I applaud your vulnerability. To elaborate, my affection stems primarily from nostalgia. I was 9 or 10 when I first watched it, and my only exposure to Trek up until then were reruns of TOS, which I loved and still do. As for TNG, I loved the design of the Enterprise D, the sets, the touchscreen LCARs, the new characters, the sense of adventure when Riker led an away team. I find Ron Jones's work on the scores in episodes like Where No One Has Gone Before and Skin of Evil to be among the best in the series. And yes, God help me, those uniforms still tug at my nostalgia neurons. Everything just seemed new and fresh after TOS. I'll be the first to admit that it has problems, code of honor, as well as wasted potential. I mean, we could have had insight into Tasha Yar's family, Ishara in season 4 notwithstanding, but instead all we got was Loxana Troy. Boy, that hurts too. That specific comparison. We could have had more Tasha. We got a whole bunch of Loxana instead. No question, just wanted to gush over this oft-maligned aspect of this wonderful franchise. I hope we can still be friends. Of course we can still be friends. Because here's the beautiful part. You can still appreciate TNG Season 1, and I can still think it was lousy. And we can coexist as friends. Yes, of course. And I mean, you make some good points, and I appreciate what you have to say. I just don't see it the same way. Except for the Tasha thing, obviously. No, I don't really give a fuck about Tasha's family. But Tasha herself, I'm sorry we didn't get more of that character and that character wasn't better served by, the episodes that she was in. Never mind more episodes. Glenn H., what you gonna do when Shives mania runs wild on you? I feel like we have to wait a few more years before we can claim that. Not out of respect to him. Fuck him. But, just statute of limitations for gimmick theft. Good evening, Steve. I know that I promised a Star Trek question, but my attention was diverted and I came up with something more timely. In honor of Hulk Hogan's passing, I decided to watch his first starring role, No Holds Barred. And it was awful. It almost, but not quite, reached the point of so bad it's good. The story was bad. The script was bad. Not surprisingly, rewritten by Hogan and Vince McMahon. The directing was mediocre and the casting was poor. I even found the wrestling fight scenes to be dopey. Have you ever seen this movie? Are the wrestling scenes uninteresting because I'm not a wrestling fan, or is it just overall bad? P.S. Since I have extra characters, I'm going to say that I hope they turn Captain Battelle into a TOS-style Gorn, complete with the leopard print tunic. Have a great show. I'm not sure if they should turn Captain Battelle into one, but I would be all for having one just, appear on the show without explanation or or commentary from anybody. Just, oh, look, there's a Gorn, and just, Anyway, yes, of course I saw No Holds Barred when it was in theaters, buddy. I was 9 years old and a huge wrestling fan, and of course I dragged my mom to see that movie with me. And when I was 9, I really liked it. Now that I'm 45, yeah, you're right. It's a horrible movie. It's absolutely horrible. I think for me, it does reach so bad it's good because it is so entertainingly bad. There's not a single good thing about it. Like, it's just awful, but it's awful in an entertaining, over-the-top way. The wrestling scenes are bad because they're bad. Yes, I would say as a lifelong wrestling fan and as someone who was a fan of the wrestling that was being produced at the time, that is not a good representation of what I like about wrestling. The wrestling scenes are just bad. It's not just because, maybe if you're not a wrestling fan, maybe you wouldn't like wrestling scenes in a movie anyway, and that's fine. But for me as a wrestling fan, I still think the wrestling scenes in No Holds Barred are the shits. William Tucker, do you have time for your own writing aspirations? Or is YouTube taking all your time these days? The second one. But fortunately, most of my writing aspirations are for YouTube at the moment and have been for many years. So it's okay. Like, I don't mind it. It's not like I have a bunch of projects I would just love to get to, but I've got this YouTube thing going on. Like, all of my creative energy seems naturally, attracted to making YouTube videos. So I'm completely fine with it. Best stressed. How does Virad Dax compare to Tuvix? Given that the joined symbiont appears to want to preserve its new form, does it deserve the same consideration as Tuvix does? Not really. Tuvix was an accident, and Tuvix became a completely unique individual and existed, let us not forget, on that episode. Tuvix was Tuvix for a while, like for several weeks. Virad only had the Dax symbiont for what, like a few hours at the most. And yes, while taking the symbiont away from him, I suppose you could say it did destroy the unique individual that was created by the merging of Virad and the Dax symbiont. I don't think that's quite the same as what happened with Tuvix, because you could separate both entities still. And yes, there would no longer be a Virad Dax, but Virad would survive and Dax would survive and could be returned to Jadzia, who was the rightful host. So I don't think it's an analogous situation. I see where you're coming from, and I understand why you would make the comparison, but I don't think it's an analogous situation. Corman J, with the new series Star Trek Academy showing a teaser with a character of a hybrid Klingon Jem'Hadar female as the captain's first officer, what is your thoughts or theory on how that happened due to the Jem'Hadar being cloned and all male? No disrespect, but I have no theory and I don't care. That's the most honest answer I can give you. I have no theory about why that's possible, and I don't give a shit. So, but if you have a theory, I'm sure it's great. Or if other people have had theories, I'm sure there are fans who have come up with really fascinating theories to explain that. I am not one of them. I am not remotely interested. Captain, I know this isn't the usual topic, but I hope everyone will hear me out. My close friend's mom, Ginger, just lost her husband to cancer, and on that very same day, a scammer exploited her grief and stole thousands from her. She's a retired nurse who poured her heart into caring for him until the end. Now she's facing both heartbreak and financial crisis. If you're able, please consider helping her get back on her feet in this devastating time. And then there is a GoFundMe link. And by the way, that is also in the description of this live stream. If you go to the description, it is linked there. So if you want to contribute to this live stream, you can just find it right there. And I would encourage you to do so. Steve, if you feel this is appropriate for the forum, I'm grateful for you sharing it. I don't usually do this sort of thing, but in you and your fans, I found a sense of kinship, a community of sane and decent people in a world that, as of recent, often feels like the opposite. Thanks for being the mayor of Steveville, or Stevetown, Steveopolis. Anyway, don't stop, be Steven. Hold on to that feeling. Feel free to sing here. Oh, sing it. Feel free to sing here. Okay. Heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend who heard it from another. You've been messing around. I don't believe it. See, the other guy who earlier said, your singing's good. Showed you, didn't I? I'm sorry. That was like the dumbest bit I've ever done. He's like, you can sing here. And then Anyway, the very grumpy monkey. How now, Steve? More of a polemic than a question. I'm Irish. Say no more. And I'm sorry to say that my country has been making headlines due to the number of brutal attacks on members of the Indian community. I can't articulate how angry this makes me or how stupid the perpetrators of these disgusting crimes are. Emigration has been a definitive part of Irish history since a catastrophic famine decimated the country in the 1840s. Wherever the Irish went, they were treated little better than dogs. Today, the Irish Health Service is always 2 steps from collapsing, but the whole thing is kept together by nurses and doctors from India working flat out. I had the privilege of visiting India and was made to feel so welcome there. So you can understand my anger when I hear about these pieces of shit attacking the people who will probably help them the next time they OD on whatever drug they're shooting into their arm. It just seems we are going backwards when it comes to minorities. Have we learned nothing? Some of us haven't. No, and and when I say we, I mean obviously in the United States we have similar problems that you're describing over there. We as a civilization haven't learned. At least we haven't learned for good because we keep repeating the same cycle. As you said, Irish immigrants were terribly treated back in the day. Immigrants from anywhere in the United States. The United States is literally a country that was built on not only the labor but also the cultural contributions of immigrants of all kinds, immigrants from Europe, immigrants from Africa, involuntary and voluntary, immigrants from Asia, immigrants from all over the world built this country, made this country what it is, and we still are infected with xenophobia and hatred and intolerance of people from other places, of immigrants, of the other. And it's disgusting. And I mean, I applaud you sharing this, and I applaud your feelings on this, and I feel the same way about it when I see it in my country. And it turns my stomach to hear about it in yours as well. It's awful. It's awful. Yeah. No, there's no excuse for it. And no, we haven't learned anything. Unfortunately, we never really seem to, do we? David Colby is back in the USA from Canada. Pause for Steve to say, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Steve, I can read your mind. I have some hot takes. 1. T'Pol is my favorite Vulcan character in the entirety of Star Trek, from Strange New Worlds to TOS. Yes, I like her even more than 68 Spock, vintage Vulcan. Jolene Blalock is an absolute revelation. After a few episodes she takes to dial in the character, she just does this outstanding job of capturing the intense emotions under complete control with an edge of delightful snark. 10 out of 10. No notes. Also, unlike most other Vulcans, she is a pretty lady. 11 of 10, 15 of 10, 20 of 10. Hot take 2. Makos are basically the same level of militarization as prior Star Treks. Dude with stun gun, and a Tonfa is actually less militarized than man-portable antimatter artillery. They're just more honest about it. Hot take 3. They should make every Star Trek show handle transporters the exact same way they do in Enterprise. Give no explanation or reason for it. Never mention why. Just use them like they're extremely dangerous terror boxes. It's the fun way to do it. Thoughts? I'm all for portraying the transporters as being a little more dangerous. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm also fine with finding all kinds of reasons not to use the transporters as a crutch, in order to get out of sticky situations. I think that's great. I have no strong opinion on the Makos one way or the other, so I will just defer to your hot take on that. And I would not say that Jolene Blalock is my favorite Vulcan out of all of Star Trek, but I absolutely 100% agree with you on her performance. There are so many actors who have played Vulcans in the whole history of Star Trek, mostly, to be fair, mostly like in guest appearances or one-shots, but it is so much harder to get right than you might think. Nimoy nailed it. Mark Leonard nailed it. I think Ethan Peck is nailing it on Strange New Worlds. I think Zachary Quinto nailed it in the movies as the alternate version of Spock, the Kelvinverse Spock. But there are so many actors who, like, they play it as flat. They play it as wooden. They play it as monotonous. And that's just not interesting. It's just not interesting to watch. There's no charisma. There's no spark there. But Jolene Blalock absolutely nails it. And you're right. It's that little addition of snark. It's that little twinge of, she's kind of a smartass. Like, she doesn't come across too much like that, but there's a little bit of, God, you're such a fucking dipshit. Like when she's interacting with Archer or Trip, especially. Yeah, she's great. Like, she's great. Absolutely. I wouldn't go all-time favorite, but she's really, 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 really great. Brian McKinley. Hey, Steve, it's been a while. I'm not normally someone who has a problem with fan service, but I can't help but wonder if Strange New Worlds' third season is going too heavy on it. Since I know you tend to have even more of an issue with that stuff, what do you think about the level of callbacks and meta jokes in this current season? An earlier question mentioned the holodeck episode. I had no problem whatsoever with the meta jokes and the sort of, the general meta stuff in that one. I think it was handled very well and it was done very cleverly. But in general, yeah, I do think they're going a little heavier on just flagrant fan service this season than they have in the past. I'm not thrilled with it. Like I said earlier, I think this season has been fine so far. I have at least liked every episode, and in some cases I have thought that the episodes were very good, or at least had bits and pieces that were very good. But it kind of, like I said earlier, it kind of feels like so far, based on the episodes that I've seen, it kind of feels like they're coasting compared to the job they did in the first two seasons. And if the general quality of the show is going to drop, then when they indulge in those fan servicey things, that, for me at least, is going to start sticking out more and is going to become less and less enjoyable for me. Because I have said about Strange New Worlds from the beginning, the most important thing about Strange New Worlds and the way it uses legacy characters is it makes it work. The show is just good, and they get away with it. They get away with having just entirely too many legacy characters on that show. Just entirely too many. But I don't usually complain about it because I don't feel like complaining about it because it's a good show. You know? If it starts to become less good of a show and it continues to dial up the fan service and dial up the callbacks and dial up the prequel-y stuff and dial up the, hey, look who it is, then that's going to be a problem for me. It's not a problem for me at this point, and I'm not like afraid at this point that it's going to be a problem. But if it gets to that point, then it will be. Yeah, it will be, because that's not what I want. That I don't like that sort of thing. That's not what I'm here for. That's not what I think Star Trek should be doing just as a rule. And I mean, Christ, are there not enough legacy characters on this show? Like, do we need more? So yeah. JDC, hi Steve, quick programming suggestion if that's okay. Are you and perhaps Mr. Jason Harding planning on doing anything on YouTube for Strange New World Season 3? Thanks, hope you're doing well. At this point, no, we are not. We are not doing the episode reviews like we did last time. I haven't really talked to Jason about this. Maybe we have talked about it like on the phone, just between the two of us, as we have each been watching the episodes. So I know what Jason thinks. We actually had a nice long talk about it yesterday when we had both watched the most recent episode. So I know what Jason's thinking about the season so far, and some of it I agree with, and some of it I don't. Maybe we could get together and do a video. Like I said, I'm going to do just myself, sort of a season end video where I talk about the whole season. Maybe Jason and I could get together and do something like that. But no, we are not doing episode by episode reviews. Matthias via YouTube. Hi, Steve. Thanks for your review of Chosen Realm. You did an awesome job of articulating the episode's strengths, intentions, and deficiencies, as always. In my opinion, the points Chosen Realm intended to make about religion were so important that those deficiencies can be ignored, however. Perhaps it's just my agnostic bias, but I read the episode as making the point that religions are all extremely arbitrary, that the leap from religion to religious extremism gets increasingly smaller the more close-minded the religion's followers are, and that, for those reasons, it's better to approach the world with a scientific mindset where beliefs change as the evidence does rather than adopt any religion at all. What do you think? Well, I mean, obviously, as an atheist myself, I agree with that. And I think that's the most reasonable way to approach things. I think it's reasonable also to read the episode that way. I'm not sure I think Star Trek in general is very much promotes a scientific versus a religious or purely spiritual worldview. Like, I think Star Trek has argued in the past that there should be room in society and there should be acceptance and tolerance of religious belief and spirituality, as long as it is not used as an excuse to harm people. Like, we should not want to eradicate religion just for the sake of it and be a purely rationalist scientific society. But that is a more reasonable viewpoint, and that if pursued fearlessly and honestly, with a great deal of humility and reflection upon oneself, that is a better way to live, not only to live a good life, but to live to build a society where we have less problems of things like intolerance and conspiracy theories and factional strife and these sorts of things. It's not a cure-all, and I'm not someone who says, oh, we just get rid of religion and that'll fix everything. Like, I think that's really simplistic and foolish. But I do think Star Trek has made the argument that you're describing here, that a more scientifically based worldview is preferable to a spiritual one, or a primarily spiritual or religious one. And I do think it's reasonable to read that episode in particular as making that argument. I didn't quite see it as going that far. I thought it was specifically more just arguing against religious extremism. But the way you describe it, it's kind of like you're saying that it did that, but it was doing that in this particular way. So yeah, I agree. I agree with you. Air One Fire, who totally did not kill his parents at the behest of an alien ghost. Thank God. I was worried. Hi, Steve. My question is a poem, 620 characters. So please read here. And here is Air One Fire's poem, and I will read it now. It was the nightmare before Christmas in 2003. I was reading Donald Duck comics. Delightful to me. 200 plus issues were in my possession. You might say those comics have been my obsession. Translations of stories from great authors renowned, as well as originals, which had my heart bound. Then my mother came home, angry at my grades, throwing insults at me as if they're grenades. We spend all of our money to keep you enrolled, and you just read comics, you 9-year-old asshole. By the end of the week, all my comics were gone, and now long out of print, so how do I live on? And then there's a little footnote at the bottom. Warning, may contain embellished or untrue facts. Fuck Trump. So, yeah, nice little poem. I like the rhymes. They had some good rhymes there. And the reveal at the end that you're a 9-year-old is clever. I like it. Rusty Ronan, yo, Steve. So lots of talk of Mr. Gunn lately. I recently realized that it was Gunn that helped make Brightburn possible, a movie I did not know what to make of at first, but I eventually came to enjoy it for what it is. As a Superman fan, what do you think about Brightburn? Oh, you mean Self-Aware Man of Steel? I like Brightburn. Yes, James Gunn produced it. One of James Gunn's brothers co-wrote it, and the other co-writer was James Gunn's cousin, I believe. So it was a family affair. I like Brightburn. I don't think it's a masterpiece or anything, but I enjoy, as you kind of describe it, I enjoy it for what it is. It's a really good sort of mashing of a superhero movie and a horror movie. It's, basically, what if Superman was a malevolent entity as opposed to a benevolent one, and he sort of gains his powers as a teenager and becomes a menace. Like, that's the twist, that's the trick. And it also functions as a good, if somewhat incredibly fucking obvious, metaphor for puberty. And adolescence. So, I mean, it's not perfect. It's not great, but I like it a lot. It's entertaining. There are some really nicely shot and realized sequences in it. And yeah, it's it's like an hour and a half. It's a perfectly fine movie. And it's really, and again, I joke at the beginning of the answer saying it's Self-Aware Man of Steel. If you view it sort of in conversation with Zack Snyder's version of Superman, it really takes on a very sharp edge, because it's like, hey, we made this on purpose. Zack Snyder's version doesn't even realize it's like this because he doesn't even understand the implications of his own work. We did this on purpose. Check it out. So it's interesting to look at from that angle as well. Jim P. Hi, Steve. So this week, one of my favorite singers posted a cover on YouTube, And of course, I listened to it. Turns out it's from Netflix's current biggest hit, K-pop Demon Hunters. I had no idea the movie even existed, and I considered myself relatively well informed. It surprised me to be so out of the loop on something so popular. When's the last time something like this made you feel your age? Have a great show. Um, I guess relatively recently, realizing that they were doing a sequel to Freaky Friday and that Lindsay Lohan was now old enough to be the mom doesn't necessarily make me feel out of the loop, but it did make me aware of my age. I was like, oh, shit. Now Lindsay Lohan is old enough to do the Jamie Lee Curtis part. Oh, wow. Um, yeah, but in terms of feeling, I mean, there, I frequently have the experience of sort of belatedly becoming aware of someone or something that is ridiculously popular, and I have just completely missed it because I don't move in those circles or I don't pay attention to that sort of thing. That happens to me all the time. It just doesn't usually bother me, and I don't usually notice it. Yeah, or I don't really think twice about it. But the Freakier Friday thing made me. I was like, oh shit, Lindsay Lohan. Oh shit, she's like as old as I am. Oh shit, I'm that old. You know, like that kind of thing. Andy Lawler, who thinks it's a damn shame DC is under martial law, but at least Gazans are still dying by the thousands. Andy always keeps it in perspective. Hey, Steve, I've long had the habit of playing music or at least some kind of sound in the background while I'm working. If I'm doing physical tasks, like I used to be able to mow my lawn, work on the trucks at the firehouse, or while I'm cooking, I like to listen to podcasts or talk shows. When I'm performing more involved tasks, such as school assignments, writing, or putting together shopping lists, I like to have music playing. While I was in graduate school, I found listening to classical guitar in particular, or even a YouTube loop of ambient enterprise background sounds would aid my focus. I guess it's a way to prevent being left alone with my thoughts. Do you do anything like that? Have any techniques to help you stay on point when, say, writing your scripts or staging your props and co-stars for recording? Thanks, and have a great weekend, everybody. Yeah, no, if I'm doing something that I don't really need to focus on, I will often be playing a podcast or listening to music. If it's anything I really need to focus on, like if I'm writing and I'm like, okay, I need to write this, I need to pay attention to this, then I usually don't have anything playing. It's just, you know, I'm paying attention to what's on the screen in front of me. But like for instance, if when I'm there's always a point when I'm editing a Star Trek video where I use a lot of still images and I do that sort of Ken Burns effect where there's pans and zooms on the still images. Once I have all of those images in place on my editing timeline and I know where they are and what they need to be, so that as I'm putting in those sort of pans and zooms, I don't actually need to be listening to every word I'm saying in the narration on the video. Then at that point, I usually will put on a podcast or some music and I'll have that on while I'm working. And I find that really helps. Helps to sort of pass, because that can be kind of tedious doing that, especially for a long video with a lot of that. But having something to listen to while I'm doing it really helps. But if it's something where I really need to focus, I mean, I keep going back to writing as the example, but if it's whether it's writing or editing or, you know, anything, I'm focusing on that. When I'm like doing stuff around the house or cooking or mowing the lawn, yeah, I'm almost always listening to something. I'm listening to music or a podcast almost always. MW Ridger is barely holding on. Hey, Steve, things are pretty rough right now. I was just forced to take on another $20,000 in debt last week for unexpected home repairs. Excuse me. When I was already living paycheck to paycheck. I've been very sick. My dog injured herself. My father-in-law is still on his deathbed. My parents' health is very bad. My sister has gone full MAGA death cultist, and fascism in the U.S. creeps steadily forward. Every day is a news story about some innocent's life being made far worse than mine by the most evil people in the world and by the people who choose to do nothing to stand up. I try to just find things to look forward to just get to that next thing and hopefully find a new thing to look forward to after that. Right now, that thing is the next season of my Adventures of Superman. I wish I could do something meaningful to help others, but I've got no money and can barely walk these days. What is your strategy to keep moving when things look bleak? You kind of just said it. Keep moving. Keep working. You know, a good thing for me is because my production schedule with my YouTube channel keeps me really busy, I'm just sort of naturally focused on that a lot of the time. So I don't have a lot of time to sort of sit down and just dwell on how terrible things are. Now, I am fortunate that things for me personally are pretty good. So I don't have the things that you are dealing with, right? I am not experiencing serious health problems. My parents, fortunately, are not experiencing serious health problems at this point. So I don't have that added weight that you're dealing with. But in terms of just the general weight of the situation we are all in, yeah, that's daunting. And I mean, there's nothing I as an individual can do about it. I can try to use my voice to sort of speak against it and articulate things that I think are important or hopefully worth other people hearing, but there's really nothing I as an individual can't fix it, or even make a substantial difference in it. But I do what I can. And that's part of my work. That's part of my YouTube channel. And there's also stuff in my YouTube channel that has not as much to do with that, that is sillier, or that does deal with the real world, but in a satirical way, where I'm trying to be funny, or I'm trying to make a point, in a sarcastic way, or I'm talking about Star Trek or Batman or Superman. And if I find opportunities in that to also comment on the real world stuff, I will do that. But the main thrust is, something else. So to me, the work helps. And that's a way of just sort of metaphorically continuing to move, don't slow down, keep moving. Not in an exhausting way, because I don't feel like I'm being exhausted, but it's just my natural rhythm. And to me, that really helps, yeah. So I don't know. I don't think that's of any help to you, but that's what I do, or have been doing at least. Carl the Tolkien nerd. Hi, Steve. You missed out a Deep Space Nine episode recently with the Mirror Universe. Which of the Star Trek series overuses the Mirror Universe too much? I can only think of one ep in TOS, which is sort of linked in Star Trek Continues, but I'm not sure if TNG, Voyager, Enterprise ever used the Mirror Universe. Do you think that Deep Space Nine overused the Mirror Universe to the point where it becomes tedious? Thoughts, please. You are correct in the actual sort of declarations you make. Yes, there was only one Mirror Universe episode in TOS, the original one, Mirror Mirror. There was no Mirror Universe episode at all in TNG. There were a whole bunch in Deep Space Nine, entirely too many. There were none in Voyager, and there was one as a two-parter in Enterprise. And then there was like 5 or 6 in a row in the first season of Discovery. I mean, even though I think all of the Deep Space Nine ones, with the exception of the first one, crossover, are completely skippable, and that's why I am skipping them, as you referred to, in me and Dana's Wednesday watch-along live stream. I skipped what would have been the next Deep Space Nine episode was a Mirror Universe episode, and I skipped it because yawn. I love Deep Space Nine. It's my favorite Star Trek show. I could completely do without the Mirror Universe stuff. I don't care about any of it. Once you see the first one and then the novelty wears off, you're like, all right, why are we coming back to this like once a year? But I think Discovery is the one that overused it the most, because like I said, they spend it brings that already very troubled first season of Discovery just absolutely grinding to a halt. And they're in the Mirror Universe for like 4 or 5 episodes of a 15-episode season. Like, it's ridiculous. And I am not a hater of Discovery. I am someone who finds things to like about Discovery. And I do like Discovery in many ways. Like, there are things about that show, even in that really, really uneven first season, there are things about the show that I like. But that fucking diversion over into the Mirror Universe is just death. Like, it's just like, get out of there. Why are we still in the fucking Mirror Universe? Get out of here. And then they go back to it, I think in season 3 for a 2-parter. And I'm just like, stop going to the Mirror Universe. I don't fucking care. It's a joke. Like, the reason why the best one is the first one in TOS is because that's the one that treats it like a joke. It's the universe where everybody's evil. Like, it's a goofy premise. You know, like how many times are we? So they either end up telling the same joke over and over again, or they try to like present it and they try to world build with the fucking mirror universe. It's, yeah. Discovery overused it the most, but Deep Space Nine also definitely overused it. Antipope Donculus I, bless you, my child. On second thought, you're a big boy. Go bless yourself after the show, buddy. Every day, the U.S. plunges deeper into overt fascism, but popular support for Trump seems to be dropping, and he and his regime are clearly worried about the 2026 midterms. The recent attempt to further gerrymander Texas seems to have been thwarted for now, but in the process, Gavin Newsom has moved to reciprocate by gerrymandering California ahead of the midterms. Normally, I would not support such anti-democratic measures, but under these circumstances, the stakes are too high, and the only hope of escaping fascism and restoring any semblance of lowercase democratic norms is for the Democrats to match the dirty tricks of the GOP measure for measure. Obviously, the Democrats aren't great, but they are the only viable option we have right now and are demonstrably, vastly preferable. What is your opinion? How much are you willing to let slide to slow, if not end, this nightmare? My opinion is you're 100% right. In principle, I am opposed to gerrymandering. In principle, I don't think any party should do it. In principle, I think that all congressional districts in every state all across the country should be determined by an independent body, by a court, by an independent commission that is specifically empowered to do that. Like, I do not think legislators should ever be drawing district lines, because as you know, it is often described, that is the politicians choosing their voters as opposed to the other way around. It's not supposed to be that way. I'm against it when Democrats and Republicans do it. But as you say in your question, these are not normal times. The threat that is currently looming over democracy itself is not to be taken lightly, needs to be opposed, needs to be defeated. So in that context, and with Trump trying as hard as he can and his allies trying as hard as they can to steal the next election, either literally or figuratively by doing things that are technically legal, but obviously underhanded and obviously designed to thwart the will of the people, as long as that is happening, if there is anything the Democrats can do to counteract that, they need to be doing it. So I am 100% in favor of Gavin Newsom and the Democrats of California, and hopefully the people of California, if they actually go forward with this and it comes to a referendum, voting to do that. That's what needs to be done. Do I want the Republicans to maintain control of the House of Representatives? No, I do not. Do I want the Republicans to maintain control of the White House in 2028? No, I do not. Do I want the Democrats to do anything that is available to them to prevent that from happening, even if it's something that in normal times I would be against, like gerrymandering? Yes. I am certain. My God, I'm not going to sit here and but gerrymandering, if it's bad when the Republicans do it, it's bad when we do it. That is the most useless, mealy-mouthed, cowardly thing you could possibly say. No, I'm completely in favor of the Democrats doing it because of what's at stake and because what the situation is right now. Russell, hey, Steve, it's been a long week and a half. My mother is getting released finally from the hospital today, so now that nightmare is over. What shall I ask you? Well, I've been watching Smallville, and yes, I am at times confused which direction it's going to go in. Oh, believe me, that never goes away. The whole show is like that. I have to say, I really like Tom Welling as Clark Kent. Too bad we never got to see a full transformation of him being Superman. I really think he would have been the best TV Superman. For sure, the best Clark, in my opinion. Who is your favorite TV Clark? And why is that TV Clark your favorite? I may or may not be in the stream tonight. I'm on my way back to the hospital, so depending on how long it takes for her release and me getting home, we'll see. Also, I really enjoyed that and The Children Shall Lead review. It's refreshing to know I am not the only one who thought that was a bad episode. See, oh, buddy, lots of people think that's a bad episode. And best of luck with everything with your mom. I'm glad that she's getting out, and I hope everything's okay. I will disagree with you a tiny bit about Smallville first. We do get to see a little bitty peek of Tom Welling's Clark as Superman in like the closing moments of the last episode. I would not even have had that. if I was running Smallville, you would never, ever, ever have seen him in the Superman costume ever. Like the show would have ended well before he gets to the point that he's a grown up and he's Superman. To me, that's the concept of the show. That's the show. The show isn't Superman in a costume doing traditional Superman stuff. The show is Superman as a teenager in high school. You know, but as for my favorite TV Clark, George Reeves. George Reeves is my favorite TV Clark because he plays, even though the Adventures of Superman TV show is a really goofy show, even in its relatively more serious first season, it's still a really silly show. But George Reeves always plays Clark and Superman as well, but he's Clark most of the time. He plays Clark as a very serious, very down the middle, hard-nosed reporter. You know, he's a no nonsense, take no shit kind of guy. And that's why it's always kind of funny to me when he does have to play up the mild-mannered reporter bit to throw people off the scent when they start to think he's Superman, and he has to pretend that he's like a coward. And when people started shooting, or when the asteroid was falling, like he ran away in terror. Like, it's funny that he does that because it's so inconsistent with his established character. Like, how Clark, as he behaves most of the time, would not be like a fraidy cat or a forgetful guy who had to run out of the room and get something, he just sort of plays that up for the sake of it, or because that's what is expected of Clark Kent. But his characterization is not like that. And I really like that. I really like that sort of serious, credible as a journalist Clark, even though nothing they do is nothing they do is like actual journalism in the show. They're more like cops, really. They're more like detectives. But then again, it's the same thing in Lois and Clark. They're not really journalists. They're basically detectives, just without officially being cops, because that's just how they write the stories. And that's how they get them involved, But no, George Reeves, my favorite Clark Kent, my favorite TV Clark. Isaiah Taylor, how would the Cardassian Obsidian Order and the Tal Shiar Romulans feel about Trump's federal government control over Washington, D.C.? Like, would Garrick or Ducat give pointers to Trump on how to better organize the police and or military? I'm asking because I know both societies are fascist. Also, what are your thoughts on the whole Sydney Sweeney American Eagle ad situation? I think both the Cardassians and the Romulans would probably be having a chuckle at Trump and what a fuck up he is and how incompetent he is. And they would be talking about how they would have imposed martial law by now, and they would have taken control of the elections much more forcefully. And they would view Trump as like, they would applaud his effort. Maybe they would appreciate his intentions, but they would also mock him for being so incompetent and so weak that he doesn't really know how to do it properly. And as for the Sydney Sweeney American Eagle ad situation, I don't really care. I think it's much ado about nothing on both sides. I think the people who pointed out the problem with the she has good genes thing have a point. Like, it is problematic. It is a little bit like, did you not realize what that sounds like? Or did you not realize what some of the implications for that might be? Like, I get why people noticed it and why people kind of looked at it like, right? I'm not saying they're completely out of bounds, but it's a way bigger deal than it should have been. And again, part of that is everything else going on, right? Part of that is, a jeans ad with copy that could be interpreted as a Nazi dog whistle definitely seems like a bigger deal in the context of, there are actual Nazis in the government running things now. It's a little different. Like, I get that. But even so, it feels like it got way, considering, what Trump is actually doing. The fact that so many people spent so much time talking about Sydney Sweeney's fucked up blue jeans ad just seems a little out of whack to me. And like I said, personally, I get why it was a problem, but I don't really give a shit. Damian Williams, hey Steve, usually I'd post a question in these to get a chuckle out of you in trying times, but this week I need to ask for help. My boss cut my hours in half quite suddenly. When my lease is up at the end of the month, I will quite literally be homeless in 2 weeks now. So I'm fundraising to, at best, get a new place quick or be able to get back home to family without losing everything I own and my cat. If you can post my GoFundMe, I'd appreciate it. And that is also linked in the description of this live stream. So you can find all of the links to the GoFundMes that have been mentioned in the questions so far tonight. And I hope everybody gets whatever help they need. Wolfie Basaj, hi Steve. Sorry, I have not been honoring my contractual obligations to ask away for a while, but I'm in the middle of a writing project at the moment and will be for the next 3 months or so. I'm also having to do extra hours on my day job, and I've hardly got a second to spare. I did try peeing and brushing my teeth at the same time, but I wouldn't recommend it. However, the anecdotes have been stacking up, and I'll soon be writing in again with tales of a fake eagle, a satanic cat, a pair of underpants that may not be of this world, and the mystery of why no one human ever sits on our couch. And so my question is, have you ever failed to live up to expectations and had to write a letter promising to do better in the future like I just did? Yes. Ordinarily, I think if you have transgressed in such a way and there is a need for amends to be made, I think it is best to do that in person rather than writing something. However, there are situations like this one with you, Wolfie, where putting it in text is the best option because you couldn't do it in person because you're not invited to my house. Nothing personal, but like almost nobody's invited to my house. I like having the place to myself. But no, the one that comes to mind is when I was in middle school, when I was in 8th grade, in English class, which was my favorite class, Mr. Cromwell's English class. Hi, Mr. Cromwell. You're probably not watching, but and myself and several other students from the class were in the computer lab, and we were left unattended. Like Mr. Cromwell, we were working on a project and we had stuff that we need to finish that class. And Mr. Cromwell trusted us. And he said, I'm going to leave you guys here and I'm going to go back, to the class with the other students who weren't in the computer lab. And, just make sure you get back to the room by 5 minutes to the bell or whatever. And he left us alone. He trusted us. And we proved ourselves unworthy of that trust. And eventually we started talking loud and carrying on and like throwing stuff at each other and causing such a ruckus that the teacher who was teaching class next door to the computer lab had to come over and tell us to knock it off and calm down because she was having trouble teaching her class. So of course, Mr. Cromwell hears about this. We all get in a bunch of trouble for it. And he's like, this reflects poorly on me because you were my students. You were in my class. I trusted you and you were unworthy of that trust. And so you all have to write a letter, taking responsibility for it and explaining what you did wrong and why you're not going to do it again. So I did. And I got it. Like I wasn't bullshitting. He's to this day, he's my favorite teacher. He's the favorite teacher I ever had. And of course, it was absolutely gutting to me at the time that I had disappointed my favorite teacher. I genuinely felt bad about it. So writing the letter was no problem. But I think that's the one that sticks in my mind is what you're describing. Usually that sort of thing I think is better done in person than in writing. But I have done it in writing, yes. John Burns, why didn't you have 2 Rikers in your existential dread video? Argue out the nightmare. I would have watched the hell out of that. Well, it sounds like you watched the hell out of the video I made, motherfucker. If I had had more lead time, maybe I would have done that. That actually sounds like a really good idea. And I could maybe put the other Riker picture like on the door that's kind of at a right angle to where the Riker portrait that I have is, and they could kind of be yelling at each other from across the corner. That's actually a clever idea, but I wrote the script for that like 3 days before I shot it. I did not have time to get another. I don't have Riker portraits just falling out of my ass here. I didn't have time to get another Riker portrait and another frame and hang it up. I just was working with what I had on hand. And I'm really happy with how that video turned out. But yeah, if I had thought up the idea ahead of time and the 2 Rikers gimmick was part of it and I had given myself more lead time to get everything I needed to do it, that's a great idea. It's a great idea. But I didn't do that, did I? But thank you for the suggestion. And this is the last question, everybody. Steve's Atheist Introspection. John here. It's been quite a week. As such, I am getting my submission in quite late this time. Indeed, John. Indeed, very late. At least by my standard practice, which is to have both of my next Ask Away submissions at least written by the later evening of the present Ask Away. Well, that's a good practice. I like that. However, presently it's Friday, 3:09 p.m. Central Time, and I'm still writing my only question for this Ask Away episode. I hear everyone now all loudly saying, "What is the point of all this?" Well, the point is, it gives me a chance to say, thank you, Steve, for allowing us a chance to lend our thoughts and opinions into all of your diligent effort, for allowing your corner of YouTube to become a true marketplace of ideas, and for actually waiting until the exact time to begin every episode. Being a Christian myself, and knowing how much you seem to enjoy themes which utilize myth, legend, and lore, how do you find yourself to be an atheist? I ask because Christianity is indeed replete with those very constructs. It definitely is. But the reason I'm an atheist is that I don't think any of it's true. That it really comes down to, it's really as simple as that. There are certainly literary and mythological elements of Christianity and other religions as well, but let's stick to your religion, that I greatly appreciate on a literary level, on a poetic level. There are passages in the King James Bible that are just exquisite. There are some really wonderful ideas or expressions of ideas in Christianity that I admire and treasure. But as one of the old new atheists might have said, when I was still paying attention to them before they had shown themselves to be as disreputable as unfortunately most of them did, the metaphysical claims of religion are false, at least as far as I can tell, in my estimation. And it's kind of hard to call yourself a Christian, or to even want to call yourself a Christian, when you don't believe that the God Christians worship exists, when you don't believe that the story they tell about Jesus and his sacrifice for the sins of others and his resurrection and cleansing of other people's sin, when you don't believe that any of that happened, and you also don't believe that philosophically that makes any sense to begin with. So it's not that I am not interested in some of the story of Christianity or the myth and legend, as you say. Some of that is fascinating, and some of that is really interesting to study or to read on a literary level. But when it comes down to, the nitty gritty of it, I'm an atheist because I do not believe that gods exist. So my atheism is based on a matter of what I take to be fact. Now, that doesn't mean that I could never be persuaded otherwise, but it would take evidence to persuade me otherwise. And I've never seen any evidence that has persuaded me that any God, your God or anybody else's, actually exists. So that's why I'm an atheist. But you're right, there is plenty of lore and legend in Christianity. You're absolutely right about that. All right, that is it for the patron and member questions. Now, I do want to say this before I move on to the rest of the show. As you noticed, it is now 7:42 p.m. Eastern Time. The show started at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. I've spent this entire time answering patron and member questions. I'm not mad about that. I love getting this many. There were 40 questions submitted this time. That in and of itself is not a problem, but I don't want this live stream to get too much longer than 2 hours. I feel like I don't want to make that kind of an imposition on you, the kind viewers. And I want there to be time at the end for me to hang out with the live chat and not just do a quick 10-minute thing with the live chat. So I am going to go a little bit beyond 8 o'clock tonight, most likely, just to spend some time with the live chat, to talk to you all who are actually watching. So not right away, but in about 2.5 months. Okay, I'm giving you a lot of lead time on this. Beginning with Ask Away number 200. This is Ask Away 195. So beginning with Ask Away 200, I am cutting the character limit for patron and member questions in half. So right now it's 1,000 characters for your question that you submit ahead of time for, if you are a patron or a member. Beginning with live stream number 200, it will be 500 characters. And hopefully that will still allow, if you have a question, if you want to ask a question, that will give you plenty of room to ask the question and to prompt me to talk about whatever you want to talk about. But actually reading the questions will not take nearly as long. And hopefully that will cut back on the amount of show time that is taken up with just reading the patron member questions. So it's a good problem to have. Like, I'm very, very grateful that I'm getting so many questions and getting such interest from all of you that it does take this long to get through the patron member questions. But I do feel like it's necessary to make an adjustment in light of the amount of questions I've been getting. So beginning with number 200, a 500 character limit for questions. Now then, that's out of the way, it's time for a Stuffy video. Are you ready for a Stuffy video? And then I'll turn to the live chat for the remainder of the show. This is a brand new Stuffy and Friends short. It's one that this is brand spanking new. I just wrote and shot this one this week. It goes up live as a standalone YouTube short on this channel tomorrow. But because you are kind enough to be watching this live stream right now, you get to see it first before anyone else. So please do now enjoy this brand new Stuffy and Friends short. So there's no chance I can get you to wear a red cape?
No, sorry. I might let you talk me into a bowl cut, though.
Really?
No. What is it?
Trump is federalizing the Washington, D.C. police and telling all the homeless people they need to leave the city.
That's terrible. When is this going to stop? How much longer? What are you doing?
I'm getting tickets to see Superman again.
Are you sure that's the best thing?
I don't know, man. I just need it.
Watching Superman again won't fix anything.
You're right. It won't fix anything. I'll walk out of that theater and the world will be just as much of a shit show as it was when I walked in. But at least for those 2 hours, I can forget about it and lose myself in a fantasy world where good people have the power to make a difference. Evil people are sometimes held accountable for their crimes, and the American people can still be persuaded by reliable journalism.
All right.
I need Superman to pop me out, man.
Fine. I understand, and I won't try to talk you out of it.
Thank you.
Just promise me 2 things.
Sure.
Number 1, get a ticket for me because I'm coming with you.
You got it.
Number 2,
Superman can pop us both out.
Okay.
At the same time.
Number 2, no matter how many times you run to Superman for comfort, never forget one thing.
What's that?
Donald Trump is in the Epstein files.
The President of the United States, Donald Trump?
Yes.
Is in the Epstein files?
Yes.
And in all likelihood is heavily implicated in some really, really terrible shit?
Yes.
Terrible shit involving children?
Yes.
And all of these things he's been doing the last couple of months are thinly veiled attempts to distract everyone from his guilt?
Yes.
Donald Trump is in the Epstein files.
Donald Trump is in the Epstein files.
There's a 3:45 show. How's that sound?
That sounds perfect.
All right. 3:45 this afternoon, Superman is popping us out.
Yes.
Hope you like that one. Okay, let me turn to the live chat. And of course, I've got to reboot my live chat viewer because it likes to crap out on me. Let me see if just hitting refresh will work. No, of course not. I need to actually sign out and sign back in. And then I'll answer some super chats that I received first, and then I'll turn to the live chat proper. There it is. There it is. Hi everybody. Okay, so I got a bunch of super chats during my extended answering of the Patron member questions. A bunch of these first several are all from our friend John Burns. Thank you very much, John, for your generosity here. Steve, did you get my PM on Facebook at 5:55 p.m.? No, I was not checking my Facebook messages 5 minutes before showtime. John also says, let's do the time loop again. I can't remember what that's in reference to, but okay. John says, I think Newsom should GM Texas and Abbott GM Cali. That's ridiculous. John says, did you consider animated Superman in TV Superman? As far as my favorite Clark Kent, yes, I did. I included them in my mental calculation. I still say George Reeves is my favorite. And John Burns also says, Parliament came to Steve Shives' class. Hashtag Cromwell. I get it. His name wasn't Oliver, or isn't. He's still alive. His name isn't Oliver Cromwell. Super chat from Philip Kehoe. Got a Bong Joon-ho Blu-ray set. I watched Memories of Murder last night. What a movie. The tone slowly shifts as events wear the characters down, winds up a beautifully haunting thing. Also, I noticed a detail rewatching Parasite in black and white. I don't think I caught the first time. Awesome. I have not seen Memories of Murder. I will have to check that out. And another one from John Burns, who says, why not only accept 1 to 3 days worth of questions? Because, I mean, I do want to be fair to people who do drop in questions at the last minute. Like I know some people, like there were folks who wrote that like into their question this time, you know, like I didn't have a chance to post my question until just now. Like I don't want to be unfair because I mean, the whole point of this is to give some kind of benefit to patrons and members for supporting me and to have to, you know, establish a level of interaction, right? Which I want for myself. I enjoy it. And plus I think it's, you know, it's nice for people who have chosen to support me in a monetary way. So I don't want to like, I don't want to try to cut people off from being able to submit questions if they've been good enough to become patrons or members. I just want it to not take as long to get through them. So hence I'm going to try a shorter character limit. And a super chat just came in from Carlisle the Cinephile. Thank you very much, my friend. How many times have you seen Superman at this point? P.S. Donald Trump is in the Epstein files, in case you didn't know. I saw it for the most recent time in the theater this past Wednesday, which was number 6. And I believe that will probably be the last time I see it in the theater because it's out on digital now and I've got it and I'm watching it on my TV in my living room as soon as this is over. So that'll be the 7th time total, but I don't usually keep count of how many times I watch a movie like in general, but movie theater 6 times. All right, let's see what's going on in the chat with everybody. Stephen G. Glenard says brevity is the soul of wit. We are so fucked. I believe in you. I believe in all of you. You can ask pithy, but perfectly wonderful, clever, meaningful questions in only 500 characters. Some random geek says Stuffy won't be super dog. No, I think he has too much dignity. Kirok says, I made it for the tail end of the show. I'm going to go a little bit beyond the top of the hour just because it took so long to get through the patron and member questions, Kirok. So I'm not going to wrap up quite as early. You'll get a little bit more of the show than you might ordinarily have gotten. Yes, I'm just now starting the live chat portion. Captain, yes, the Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. Yes, Donald Trump, president of the United States, is in the Epstein files. I think. I mean, probably, in all likelihood. Prosthetic Head says, what's your favorite Star Trek ship? It's really close. I've often said it's the Defiant. If it's not the Defiant, then it's either the original movie version of the Enterprise, basically the design of the Enterprise from Star Trek the Motion Picture through Star Trek 6, like that one with the kind of flat nacelles. It's either that one or the Discovery / Strange New Worlds version of the Enterprise. It's one of those. It's either the Defiant or one of those Enterprises. Isaiah says, I'm building a model Boeing 747 of a fictional autistic airline company. Can I share with the AA when I'm finished? Yes, of course. Yeah, sure. Steven says, will you also shut down double posting, please? Maybe. You mean like in terms of like, even if you're both a member and a patron, only one question per person? Well, let's see how it goes. Dana says, so Vulcan should be played more like Murderbot. Sort of. He's kind of doing a Vulcan thing. He's showing more discomfort than a Vulcan would show. Like a Vulcan typically would not be so obviously uncomfortable in a situation, even if it was a situation that was undesirable to them. Vulcans would have a better poker face. But it's the same. Yeah, it's in the same ballpark as to what he was doing in Murderbot. Yeah. Oh, Black Cover 95 left, but had a question. Thank you, Geek. Strange New Worlds recently provided an explanation as to how the holodeck exists in Discovery, but not during TOS, and it explains why the holodeck uses its own power grid. Aren't you thrilled? You just described the parts of that episode that I care the least about. I like that episode. I thought it was an enjoyable episode. Could not have given less of a shit about the fucking lore patching that they felt the need to do. I don't fucking care. You don't need to tell, well, here's why it's a separate power grid and here's why blah, blah, blah. I don't, guys, don't worry. I don't fucking care. I don't fucking care. You know, I mean, it was a good episode, so it didn't bother me, but I kind of rolled my eyes a little bit like, okay, you got to patch it up. Got to make sure it's perfectly consistent for the fucking nerds. Yes, Wolfram and Hart, Superman's also going to be available in physical media in I believe next month. And yes, not only did I buy it on digital, I also got the 4K Blu-ray. It's coming as well. Kirok says, will you still be allowing for both patron and member questions? For now, I will be, yes. As I think Stephen Clenard suggested that I don't do that anymore. For now, I'm still going to allow it, but we'll see. If it's still, if I do the 500 character limit and it's still taking like an hour and a half or an hour and 3/4 to get through all the questions, then yes, I will say, okay, it doesn't matter if you're a patron or a member, just one question per person. Agent Meister with a super chat. Thank you very much, my friend. Peldor Joy to the once and future Shives. Do you think Bane was shortchanged at the end of The Dark Knight Rises? No. My only problem with the end of The Dark Knight Rises is I didn't see a reason why Batman won the fight that time. It's sort of like Bane beat Batman. Batman went to prison, built himself back up, you know, like sort of regained his confidence, regained his fighting skills, healed, and then came back to Gotham and they fought again. And this time Batman won. It just didn't have, to me, the end of the second fight with Bane, there needed to be like a reason that Batman won, like something obvious that he had learned or something that carried him through when he didn't, you know, there are little hints of things here and there, but nothing concrete. But no, do I think Bane got shortchanged as a character? No, I thought Bane in Dark Knight Rises was really good, actually. Oh, Air One Fire. Will you answer my actual question? How do I cope with having lost these comics forever? You just get over it, man. You just get over it. You can't, there's nothing you can do. Life goes on, you know? Life goes on. Maybe buy more comics and enjoy those instead. But I mean, with something like that, like you can't get them back. There's nothing you can do. You have to just, you know, remember them in your heart. Oh, but you found 2 issues so far. That's good. Yeah, I'll Kirok with season 6 of Smallville with another. Thank you for that super chat, by the way, too. Season 6 feels like the Justice League. Yep, I told you that it never goes away. The show is always like that. Some more super chats. Thank you, everybody. Carlisle with 1. Thank you very much. What is your favorite ship in Star Trek? You mean like as far as one that was actually established on camera, not like a fan ship? Surprisingly enough, I'm gonna say I never would have thought this before season 3 of Picard, but I think I have to say Riker and Troy. Riker and Troy, I was not a fan of them just kind of up and getting married at the start of Nemesis. It felt like just creative bankruptcy. Like, what are we going to do with Riker and Troy in the last movie? Fuck it. They got married. Like, I was not a fan of it. I didn't think it worked. And, you know, I was not a fan of Picard season 3. I didn't think it worked for the most part, with a few exceptions. But one of the things in Picard season 3 that did work was it sold me finally on Riker and Troy as a couple. I not only believed it, but I cared about it. So yeah, I think it's probably them, honestly. It's probably Riker and Troy. 255 AD says, why was the original Enterprise designed like that? Like, I'd have thought the prop guys on a 1960s sci-fi show would build more of a stereotypical spaceship. You know, I don't know. I'm not sure why it looks like that, but I'm glad it does. Because I mean, I think it looks a lot more interesting than a stereotypical spaceship would. Some more super chats. S.A. Ross, thank you, my friend. Hi, Steve. Have you seen any of my adventures with Superman? If so, what do you think? I love its take on both Lois and Clark. I have seen it. I love it, my adventures with Superman. I think it's great. It's just super fun and enjoyable. Has great energy. It's really funny, which I appreciate probably most of all. But also has a good heart. I like the character designs. I like the animation style, the sort of anime inspired thing they're going for. The voice cast is tremendous. And yeah, it's a good. Yeah, I like Lois and Clark as characters in their own right. I like their relationship. It's a really really good take on Superman. I like it a lot. Um, oh, bye, John. Geek says, I hate Dean Kane's joining ICE. I want to boycott his work. What has he done recently? I love that joke. I've seen people making that joke on social media. Like, I decided to boycott Dean Kane's recent work, and it's pretty easy so far. I'm not finding any. Like, yeah. He really apparently he did a whole bunch of like direct to video stuff over the years, but I've not seen any of it. I think it was mostly like family movies, kids movies and stuff. What is your favorite Hugo Weaving role? Oh boy. God, he's such a good actor, but he's been in so few things that I really like. I guess maybe Agent Smith in the first Matrix movie, just by default, you know, because like I'm not a Lord of the Rings fan at all, so I'm not going to say that. I know he's been. Oh, no, V for Vendetta. There we go. That's my favorite Hugo Weaving role. V for Vendetta. You don't even see the poor guy's face, but he's V in V for Vendetta. Kirak says, does this show know what it wants? And what is up with the red blue blur? He should have been in the glasses and wear the suit and forget. You see the rest of my message about season 1 through 5. Oh, get the no flights, no tights. No, man, the no flights, no tights rule is the show. You've got to have the no flights, no tights. That's the show. It's not Superman. It's Smallville. And Smallville is Superman in high school. That's the show. So no, the no flights, no tights was the essence of the show. They shouldn't have eased up on that as much as they did. He never should have flown. He never should have worn anything like a Superman costume for the entire show. That's the show. Right? So no, I totally disagree with you on that. Steven says, super chat from Stephen G. Clark. Thank you, my friend. How about allowing double posting as long as you limit it to 250 characters each? I'll think about it. There are options on the table. I'll think about it. Don Quixote with a super chat. There are plenty of other YouTubers talking about it, but what's your take on Maxwell being sent to a club-fed prison and then granted work release? It's bullshit. It's bullshit. It feels, like either like she's given the Trump administration something they wanted already, or they're trying to butter her up to give them something. No, it's bullshit. It feels like quid pro quo. Carlisle the Cinephile says canon means nothing. Go crazy, my friend. See, that's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear. I think I answered your question, Kirak. Did I see the rest of my member message about season 1 through 5? I think I answered it, didn't I? Steven says, wait, there was more than one Matrix movie? I mean, yeah, I don't know why, but yeah, I mean, I know why, but I don't know why creatively. Steve Schmaling says, Dean Cain has done a few Hallmark movies. Yes, I believe you're right. How long before he does a home improvement show like the other has been? Well, but that's the thing. He wasn't a has-been when he did Home Improvement. Home Improvement made him a star, and he became a has-been later on. Yes, Kara, there you go. Oh, yeah, it was all those dog movies. Yes. Dean Cain did all those dog movies that were like direct to video. The dog who saved Christmas, the dog who saved the multiverse, whatever the fuck. Let's see. Captain says, fun facts, The Matrix is my favorite movie, and my dog's name is Hugo. Well, good for you. Arrow on Fire says, that'll do, pig. That'll do. Piggy, piggy, babe in the city. When I smell bacon, it makes me feel giddy. I've been obsessing over that song this week, by the way, that Lonely Island song from like last year. Here I Go. God, I love that fucking song. I've watched it about 1,000,000 times and I fucking giggle my ass off every time. I love that song. 255 AD says, when J.K. Rowling turned into a TERF, I remember thinking it'd be really easy to boycott her work since she hasn't written a good book since 2007 when Harry Potter finished. I mean, the thing with Rowling is it's still relatively easy because she's like, you only have to avoid Harry Potter. Right? Like she's still, I mean, she's done other stuff, but like who's reading the fucking Robert Galbraith novels anyway? She's done other stuff, but it's all related to Harry Potter. So just don't see any new Harry Potter stuff. Like it's fairly simple. You know, you're not having to boycott like you're not having to consider boycotting like an entire streaming service or like everything that a company produces or anything like that. It's like, no, I just won't watch any more Harry Potter stuff. Seems pretty simple to me. Wolferman Hart with a super chat. So World War I, Belgium airlift was wealthy Herbert Hoover saving millions caught in blockades of UK and Germany. Who could do similarly today with Gaza? Well, a lot of people could. I mean, I think that's probably part of the reason you're asking the question. A lot of people could. It's just they don't seem to be doing that, do they? Oh, Isaiah Taylor says the Enterprise was inspired by U.S. naval vessels, UFO saucer lore, and aviation. Also, have you watched any of the new South Park stuff? Yes, I've seen both of the new episodes they've released so far. I have enjoyed them both very much. That's definitely a way for South Park to win me back. Just fucking go for the throat on Trump every single time. I'm all for that. Yes, Dean Cain was in the first God's Not Dead as well. That's right. Yes. But that was a while ago now. That was the first God's Not Dead was like 10 or 15 years ago now, wasn't it? Can we expect the dog who saved fascism soon, says Simon Moody. That's perfect. Oh, God, I'm sure Ben Shapiro would love to fucking produce that for whatever, that fucking shitty streaming service he was starting. Trying to 1701. I've heard this too. I read somewhere that Jamie Lee Curtis will be Jessica Fletcher in a remake of Murder, She Wrote. Should a classic show like Murder, She Wrote be remade? Although Kathy Bates in the new Matlock is good. I mean, they've remade everything else. I don't know why Murder, She Wrote would be sacrosanct. It might be more difficult because that show is so, associated specifically with Angela Lansbury. But then again, Magnum PI was totally associated with Tom Selleck and they did a reboot of that. And I don't think it didn't like capture the national imagination or anything, but it had a pretty good run. I think it ran on CBS for like 5 or 6 seasons, didn't it? And it may still be on. I don't know. I've never watched it, but I mean, it was successful. The new MacGyver, they did a reboot of MacGyver that ran for 5 seasons, which is not bad, totally respectable. I watched the first 2 episodes of it, I think, and then was kind of like, okay, this really isn't for me, but it was successful. So, I mean, if other shows like that have been they've tried to reboot Knight Rider 2 or 3 times and it's never quite caught on, but they've made the attempt. So, I mean, why not? Fuck it. Why not try it with Murder, She Wrote? I'm sure Jamie Lee Curtis will be fine, you know? Super chat from Kirok. Thank you, my friend. Okay, that is fair, but then they should have ended Smallville after high school, then came out with a Superman TV series with the same cast. I personally think that would have been stellar given the whole Dr. Swan. I agree with you about ending it after high school, but I don't really have an interest in seeing us like, no. I agree. They should have ended it after the natural endpoint of Smallville was high school graduation, but then that should have been the end. Like, I don't get why people, I don't get why people want shows to go on forever. Why do you want the show to go on forever? Let it be really good until it gets to its natural endpoint and then it ends. And then you have this wonderful show. Or you can just drag it out forever. And then you have a few years of a wonderful show and then a whole bunch of crap. Why is that better? Damian Williams says, I'm a Christian and I would rather take a punch in my taint than watch God's Not Dead. Well, good for you. Good for you. I admire that. I wish there were more Christians. Actually, there are lots of Christians like you. I sometimes feel bad for the many level-headed, reasonable, tolerant Christians that there are, that, you know, the most public-facing representatives of their religion are almost always the most radical, crazy extremists and nut jobs. I mean, it's like that with other religions too, but, you know, because Christianity is the most prevalent religion in the United States, you know, I have had that thought from time to time. Steve Schmeling says, about your last retro review, every time the kids do the first thing, I think of the sci-fi era of MST3K, nada nada boo boo. Yes, I thought of that too. That's exactly what they were parodying with the evil kids. They even did like the fist. I think they shook their fist into their palms, didn't they? Or did they just do that? I can't remember. But they were obviously making fun of that. Yeah, I thought of that too. As soon as, because it had been a long time since I watched the episode. So when I watched the episode yesterday, yesterday morning, so I could write the review, as soon as he did that for the first time, I was like, oh, it's this episode. Because I remembered that, you know, they did that on MST3K and that it was a riff on something from Star Trek, but I couldn't remember which episode it was. So as soon as I saw Tommy go like this for the first time, I was like, it's this episode. This fucking rotten episode. Oh, let me see. Another super chat here from Kirok. DS9 Quantum Leap, The Incredible Hulk could all go on forever. I would have been okay with that. Like I said, I'm only in season 6 and have 4 more seasons. Well, let me hear what you think after you get through, you know, fucking season 10. Let me hear you say that you were glad that it went that long. Geek says, should comics go on forever? Comics are a little, I mean, comics are a little different because there is that tradition in comics of constantly refreshing the creative team. You know, a comic book doesn't have to recast the characters. A comic book just has to bring in fresh writers and artists every so often. So I feel like it's easier for a comic book to just go on forever in perpetuity than it would be for a TV series. I mean, every TV series eventually has a natural end, even an animated series, because you're going to have to recast the voices. I mean, you could say the characters on screen won't have to age, but you'd still have to recast the voices. And yeah, you could find sound alikes and stuff, but eventually you're going to hit a wall where you're like, you know, like this just isn't the same show. And at that point, I think you have to say, we probably should have ended this at some point. You know, making something longer is almost never a way to improve it when it comes to stories, when it comes to movies, TV shows, whatever, right? Dragging it out further is almost never a way that you make it better. I would much rather have, like, despite the fact that Ricky Gervais has now turned out to be a fucking huge asshole, like with that consideration in place, the original UK version of The Office is absolute perfection. It's 2 6-episode seasons and 1 like 2-hour Christmas special, and that's it. And it's perfect. Do I wish there was more of it? No. It's fucking perfect. Faulty Towers is the same thing. Faulty Towers. There's like, what, 12 episodes? Something like that of Faulty Towers? Well, I don't know. I don't want any more of it. It's perfect just the way it is. Would I rather have, you know, 13 episodes of the perfect British Office versus 9 seasons of the occasionally incredibly fucking good, but often not that great American Office? I would much rather have the perfect 13 episodes. I would much rather have that. Yeah, that's just my take on it. I would rather a show end when it's creatively supposed to end, rather than let's just keep doing this forever until people stop watching and it's no longer the show. I mean, is there a better example of that than The Simpsons? I love The Simpsons, and I don't think the current era of The Simpsons is quite as dire as people make it out to be. Like, it's not a bad show, but it's just kind of running on autopilot. And would it have been better if they had ended it in like season 7 when it was still the best show ever? Yes, of course. Of course. You know, King of the Hill just came back. I watched the new season. I thought it was terrific. I really liked the new season of King of the Hill. I think they did a good job with it. But would I have been okay if they ended it after season 7 or season 8? Again, when it was still like one of the best shows ever? Yes. Do I watch the new episodes of Futurama whenever they decide to bring that show back, as they seem to continuously do? Yes, of course I watch the new episodes. I love Futurama. Would it have been better for Futurama to have ended the first time it ended and just stay gone? Yes. Creatively, yes. Of course. Yeah, Geek, you want more stories, not the same story going on forever. Yeah. Stephen G. Clinard, I never saw Hawaii 1-0 through 4-0. Is it worth watching those first? You can jump right in at 5. You don't need the backstory. Super chat from Carlisle. Have you seen the King of the Hill continue? There we go. Yes, I just answered it before I even saw your question. I like that they actually advanced the characters. I especially love the stuff with grown-up Bobby. Yes, the Bobby stuff is really good. The most important thing to me is that it's still funny. It made me laugh. I enjoyed it on that level. I did think the Bobby stuff was really well done. Good character writing. And again, also like he's funny, and he's funny in a different way than he was when he was portrayed as a kid in the original show, but he's still recognizable as Bobby. No, I like I said, I think the new stuff is good, but in general, would I prefer that a show ended at a natural endpoint, like before it got watered down and dragged out beyond all reason? Yes. A great example of that is All in the Family. One of my maybe my favorite show ever. All in the Family. Maybe my favorite show ever. Did it go on 3 or 4 seasons too long? Absolutely. Should they have done Archie Bunker's Place? No, they should not have. Not creatively speaking. I mean, it made money, but in terms of creative, that show it really should have ended when Mike and Gloria left. Mike and Gloria moved to California. That's the end of the show. I mean, it wasn't, but it should have been. Ah, Dana. I'm the first man who's ever said making things longer doesn't make them better. As far as TV, even with that, there's a limit, right? Even with that, I mean, there is a certain length beyond which you're just not gaining anything. Isn't that, wouldn't you say that's true? Like the diminishing returns have to begin at some point. Like, okay, I don't really, at the very least, you say this isn't really doing anybody any good at this point, right? Tutti5 AD says, with regard to Rowling, do you think it's pretty bad for a writer's craft to get a mega hit right away so you never have to improve again? I think they basically stopped even editing her. Yeah, I mean, but a lot of that's on her too. I mean, you still have the power as the writer to challenge yourself, to do things differently, to not just keep doing the same thing over and over. Like, I mean, it's still her responsibility, but yes, I agree with you. Finding that kind of success with one project, and it's like the first project you got published and it becomes the biggest thing in the world, and you realize, oh, I can just do this, and I'm going to be a billionaire. Like, yeah, I'm sure that does not help your creative process, but it's still on her as far as not doing anything else, or, not doing anything else significant, and not trying to stretch herself or challenge herself. I mean, it's not an excuse. Simon Moody. I mean, I kind of agree with you. In terms of, Simon says, not to be too flag waving, but older British series got it right. Faulty Towers, Blackadder, and similar other models to follow. I mean, I kind of agree with you. That's why I have never been one to complain when people say, don't you wish that Star Trek was 25 episodes a season like it used to be? Not as long as it's good. Not as long as it's good. I would rather get 10 good episodes of a show a year than, 10 good episodes and 10 or 15 ones. No, I don't have a problem with it. Quality is always more important than quantity. you know. I mean, yeah, there I guess when I was a kid and I wasn't as discriminating, sure. Oh, new Star Trek and it's, you get 26 new episodes of Star Trek. Um, but now as an adult and as someone who, is more mindful and more takes more notice of how good I think something is, not just the fact that it exists. Yeah, I have no problem with shorter seasons as long as they're good. If you can give me like 6 great episodes and that's all you've got, then give me that. If you can give me 10 good episodes and that's all I got, give me that. But don't give me like 10 good episodes and then 15 kind of okay ones or shitty ones. I'd rather just have the good 10 ones. Um, Kane20C says, would Quantum Leap be as highly regarded if it ran longer or had a different ending? It depends. It depends on whether or not the extra stuff was good. If it had gone beyond its original run and the last season or 2 seasons were really good and it had a fantastic ending, then yeah, sure. But let's remember, Quantum Leap did get 5 seasons. That's not a bad run. And that last season, as much as I love Quantum Leap, and it's always going to be one of my favorite shows, that last season, like creatively, the writing was kind of on the wall. Like Quantum Leap had sort of a rough beginning. The first season is not that great, or at least the first season, the first several episodes of the first season. It has an awkward stage. It takes it a while to kind of figure out what it wants to do and find its voice. And then after that, it's really good. And then when you get toward the end, it starts to it's like, it feels like they're running out of ideas, or it feels like they're starting to worry about how low the ratings are and they're doing stuff that is intentionally done to try and grab an audience and not done just to tell a good story. And the show suffers because of that. So by the time the show ended, looking back on it now, by the time the show ended, it was probably time for the show to end. If they had done another season or 2 and it was great, of course it would be better remembered. But they didn't. And I mean, to people who saw the show and liked it, it's still pretty well remembered. It's still considered a classic show. And like I said, I still love it dearly. And there are so many great episodes of Quantum Leap, you know. And five seasons, especially for a show that didn't always have great ratings and was bounced around on the schedule a lot. 5 seasons is a pretty good run. Nothing to be ashamed of at all. A couple of more super chats. Kirak says, to quote Steve and TNG, all good things. Yes, exactly. Exactly. And Kirak also says, Color of Truth is an amazing episode of Quantum Leap. Oh, man, absolutely. Maybe the best episode. Although I also really like Running for Honor. Running for Honor is a really good one, too. And has maybe my favorite ending of any Quantum Leap episode. Paul O'Kelly says, have you ever watched Bottom? No. Damien Williams says, The Good Place chose to end at 4 seasons in spite of massive financial offers from the network to continue because they told the story they wanted to tell. That is one of the best examples. And again, The Good Place, a damn near perfect show. 4 10-episode seasons, right? So there's only 40 episodes in total of The Good Place. And it is just it's a pearl. Like, it's just this beautiful, perfect show. It's funny. It's so goddamn funny. And it's smart and it's meaningful and it's philosophical. And yeah, the creators said, we think after season 4, that's it. That's the end. And they did it. They left money on the table, and credit to them for doing that, because NBC would have been happy to bring it back for another season. But they ended the show at what for them was the right time creatively to do it. And I feel like the quality of the work vindicates that decision, you know? Kirak, I've liked a lot of HBO shows. Yeah, HBO, I mean, really most things are on that model now. Like, streaming shows tend to have short seasons compared to how broadcast seasons used to be. Even a lot of broadcast shows, the seasons are the episode orders are a lot smaller than they used to be when I was a kid. Yeah, I've liked a lot of HBO shows that were 9 or 10 episodes. I mean, the episode number isn't a guarantee of quality. Like, you can easily make a really, really lousy fucking show that's only 9 or 10 episodes a season. It's all about the execution. But my point is, I don't really care about how many episodes there are. I care about how good it is. You know, the Book of Boba Fett was only 6 episodes. I barely made it through it. I fast forwarded through a bunch of it. I thought it was so fucking boring and pointless. Right? But the Bad Batch, not the Bad Batch. I never even watched the Bad Batch. That's one of those fucking cartoons. Not the Bad Batch. Skeleton Crew. That's the Star Wars show I fucking loved. Skeleton Crew was like, what, 8 episodes? It was fucking great. It was fucking great because it was 8 good episodes. You know, Boba Fett had 6 episodes. I could barely drag myself in front of the TV to watch it, and I didn't watch a lot of it. I was like, fast forward. Okay, come on. Let me skip 10 minutes and maybe something will be happening then. Like, you know, and I felt the same way about the fucking Obi-Wan Kenobi show. I didn't fast forward through any of it, but goddamn, I felt like it. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ. You know, so the episode number, there's more. It's all about execution. It's all about execution. Okay, I'll get a few more questions and then I'll wrap up at 8:30 or half past. How about that? Oh, Dana, no, I'm not going to pop some popcorn. I'm just going to probably have a snack and just watch it. I'm not going to pop. I don't think I even have popcorn in the house. Well, I said, I said it gets better after it finds its legs. Yes, Color of Truth is. I mean, there's really great stuff in season 1. I didn't say season 1 is all bad, but it does. There's definitely a, you know, I'll tell you this about Quantum Leap. Really bad pilot episode. Again, I love Quantum Leap. I'm not shit talking the show, but the pilot episode of Quantum Leap is just really awkward and clumsy and not good. I understand they have like a really complicated premise to get across. It might have been tough to explain what the show is in a way that the general audience would understand. Like, they had that to deal with. But it's really a bad episode. It's a bad pilot episode specifically. And several episodes following that are kind of, I mean, not bad, but just sort of clunky, just sort of like, I'm not sure if this is a show, you know, but they found it and it eventually became a great show. Oh, Geek, should you watch you've never seen The Lost Boys? I know there are people that really love that movie. I think it's a good movie, like, to sort of laugh at. I think it's kind of a corny, sort of so bad it's good movie. Like, I enjoy it on an ironic level. I don't think it's a good movie. It's a fun movie to watch. Oh, Trying to 1701, From the Earth to the Moon. What a great show. One of my all-time favorite shows. I love From the Earth to the Moon. Wolfram Hart, same here, about Skeleton Crew. Shocked me how great it was. It was kid-oriented, but it had a compelling story arc, and the kid actors, and nearly all of them were quite good, plus Jude Law. It was amazing. I think I said before, it's my favorite new Star Wars thing since the first season of The Mandalorian. And now that I think back on it, I might like it even better than that. Like, it's just fantastic. It felt like, and not that this is, I mean, I'm not one of these guys. It's like, it feels like Star Wars. Like, there's a range, right? But Skeleton Crew specifically, more than any of the recent stuff, it reminded me of the first Star Wars movie. It reminded me of like old school classic Star Wars in the best way. And I loved it. I thought and I was also, I did not expect to like it as much as I did. And I really, really liked it. Oh, Chernobyl, man, you're bringing out all the great HBO shows. Yeah, Chernobyl is, oh my God. Speaking of masterpiece. Yeah, Chernobyl is a masterpiece and and it's just wrenching. Like, it's just a fucking gut punch. It's so brilliant and so well. Like, Jared Harris is so goddamn good in that show. It's incredible. It's incredible. Sereno Geek says, should I watch Roadhouse after I see The Lost Boys? Buddy, you should watch Roadhouse first. Roadhouse is so much better than The Lost Boys. Roadhouse is so much better than The Lost Boys. Kirak says, initiation's over, Steve. Time to join the club. Is that a Quantum Leap reference? Is that like the biker episode or something? I can't remember. Yannick Muller says, what do you think of open endings of shows or films? I'm thinking of Twin Peaks, which is frustrating and at the same time probably the best possible ending. I don't have any problem with that. I don't have any problem with leaving an ending open or ambiguous, as long as it works. Like you said, the ending of Twin Peaks, and I assume you mean like the revival, the third season, which is sort of like the final sort of proper ending. And I agree with you. Yeah, as long as it's done intentionally, that's the ending the creators wanted it to have, and it was done with a purpose. And yeah, no, I have no problem with that at all. There's nothing wrong with an open-ended ending that there's no reason why it can't work. You know, I think I have no problem with it at all. 255 AD says, did you see my King of the Hill question? Let me go back and try to find it. Oh, did you roll your eyes at some of the jokes about microaggressions? I think that's just Hank being Hank. I think that's what they were going for with that. I mean, I actually think they handled Hank really well. I think they were true to him without making him sort of, you can't make him too tolerant and open-minded. He has to have those little knocks in there every once in a while, but they make it clear that even despite those kind of remarks and that kind of sort of boomerism that Hank has, that he's fundamentally a decent, good-hearted guy. I think that's the most important thing with Hank. So no, that I noticed it, but it didn't really bother me. I didn't really roll my eyes at it too hard. Lost Boys reference. Well, you can make all of those you want. I probably won't get them. I've seen it once or twice, but it's been a long time. What did I think of the 6 Feet Under finale? I've never watched 6 Feet Under. Kane20C, there you go. Watching Roadhouse is Geek's reward for watching Lost Boys. There you go. Okay, Steven, I'm ending it. Have some goddamn self-respect and stop talking. Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, I'm going to do what the man says. I'm going to do what the man says. You know what? It's beyond a natural endpoint. I've become a hypocrite. I've stretched it beyond its natural endpoint. So if there are any final questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat, and I'll take one last pass before I end for good tonight. But thank you all so much for joining me. Thank you all for hanging out with me, going a little longer because I did want to spend some time with the live chat after taking so long to get through the patron and member questions. Please don't forget charitylinks.page and all of the specific links that are a part of that Geek put in the chat a few minutes ago. If you can possibly help out our friends who need a helping hand, please do so. Make use of those links and the links that I put in the video description for people who mentioned them in their questions tonight. If you can help out any of our friends who need help, I would encourage you to do so. And thank you very much. Also, if you enjoy my YouTube work and you would like to become a financial supporter of this channel, you can do so by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Steve Shives, or becoming a channel member by clicking the join button. One of the perks that you can enjoy as a patron or a member is you can submit questions ahead of time for these Ask Away live streams. And those are the questions I answer first before I pay full attention to the live chat. So patreon.com/Steve Shives, or click the join button to become a channel member. Thank you all so much. Also, in addition to the YouTube stuff, I am on a couple of excellent, wonderful, terrific podcasts. There's the Late Seating podcast, which is a movie review podcast I co-host along with the brilliant and hardworking Jason Harding, where we take a look at classic films and see if they deserve their reputation, be it good or bad. Our most recent episode of Late Seating is our review of the classic David Cronenberg film Videodrome. You can listen to that and see what we think about Videodrome right now. And also, there is the Ensign's Log, the Star Trek-themed comedy podcast, which is just about to begin. Can you believe it? Its 8th season. We recorded the season 8 opener this past weekend, and it was a lot of fun. We're really happy with it. I hope that those of you who have been listening to the Ensign's Log all along will enjoy it. And I hope if you have not been listening to the Ensign's Log, that you will give it a shot. You have plenty of episodes to binge on to catch up if that's your sort of thing. It is a Star Trek improv comedy podcast where myself and Jason and Amanda play original characters who exist in the Star Wars universe, and we have our own sort of things going on in the foreground, while stuff from the actual Star Trek shows is sort of happening in the background, and we occasionally will reference it. But it's a lot of fun if you enjoy Star Trek, if you enjoy stuff that makes fun of Star Trek, if you enjoy things in the Star Trek vein, but that are, leaning more toward comedy, then check out the Ensign's Log. I think you'll appreciate it. All right. That's it for the plugs and such. Let me turn back to the live chat really quick and see if anybody has any final comments or questions. Yeah, Wolfram and Hart. Yeah, it was the same executive producer as Andor for yeah. Yeah, and also there's a creative cross pollination between Chernobyl and The Last of Us as well, which may partially explain why The Last of Us is so goddamn good. Could never get into Twin Peaks as trying to 17. I really like Twin Peaks. I mean, Twin Peaks is another one. Like, it kind of loses its way in its second season, but then like 25 years later, when Lynch comes back for the revival, it's fucking amazing. Paul O'Kelly, do you plan to climb the tree again? Yes, I do. I plan to climb many trees again. Captain J, the Ensign's Log isn't one of those shows that needs to end early. I think Jason does have an ending in mind. I'm not sure exactly when it will be. I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. But then again, if Jason decides to end it this year, then we're ending it this year. But I don't think that's the plan at this point. Yeah, 255 AD, that didn't really bother me. I mean, I understand why it would make you roll your eyes, and generally I'm not, I mean, I don't like people that make fun of microaggressions, but yeah, to me, that's just Hank being Hank, and there's enough goodness that we see from Hank that it doesn't really bother me. Winter says, have you already given your opinion on the new internet censorship laws? I'm not really sure what you're referring to there, so I'll have to look that up and think about it. All right, I believe that's it. I'm going to end it right there, much to Stephen Clenard's relief. And thank you all so much for your questions, for your comments, for your kind words, for hanging out, for sticking around. Have a good night. Have a good weekend. I'm going to go watch Superman. Take care, everybody.